My name is Stephanie Stevens. I am not the chair or vice chair, but our chair and vice chair are traveling today, so I'll be facilitating the board meeting. I'd like to call to order the board meeting today on Thursday, April 9th, 2026 at 6 o'clock. And we'll start with our Native American land acknowledgement, which I'm going to turn around and read. Today, we want to begin our meeting by acknowledging that we gather as David Douglas School District on the traditional land of the Multnomah, Wasco, Cowlitz, Clackamas, bands of Chinook, Tualatin, Kalapuya, Malala, and many other tribes, past and present, who made their homes along the Columbia and Willamette rivers, and honoring with gratitude the land itself and the people who have stewarded it throughout the generations. We further want to again acknowledge the impact of forced removal, violence, and the attempted erasure of the lives and legacies of Indigenous people past and present, and to commit to creating an educational environment that honors Indigenous history and contributions and encourages the continual pursuit of better stewardship of the land we inhabit as well. Thank you. And then we will have our student body president report.
Hey guys, so I am going to first start off by introducing you to someone new. This is Leaderson. He is next year's ASP president. You guys will love him. Yeah, give him a little clap. He is next year's ASP president, and I cannot say anything else, but I'm incredibly proud. He is an amazing leader and an amazing advocator. You guys will all have a great time with him. Yeah, you'll notice he's never afraid to speak out or, really put himself out there for what he thinks is right. And yeah, the school is in great hands, and I'm so proud of him. So, starting off with the rest of the stuff, tomorrow we have an ICE town hall. The doors open at 4:45 and starts at 5 in the PAC. There's going to be public officials and district leaders there, so it's really important opportunity for students to ask questions and stay informed on what's going on in our community. It is hosted by our school's LSU, and then after that, there's going to be an after party at 6:30 in the South Cafeteria with free food and a DJ, so I definitely recommend going. It should be great. And then also coming up, we have prom. I know I left you guys on a cliffhanger for the theme. So, I'm going to reveal it. It is La La Land. It is an amazing movie, and it's going to be on April 24th at Castaway. It's going to be like primary colors. I'm super excited because this is my senior prom. So, I already have my suit, tie picked out and everything, and we're really excited about it. And then for our seniors, the school is currently looking for graduation speakers, and applications have been sent out to seniors to speak at graduation. So for some things we've already done, so this is for the past, Student Council recently put on a spring egg hunt around the school. There were eggs filled with candy, and some people even got things like stuffed animals, which was really cool. And it was a great way to get everybody outside. It was really nice weather. The sky was blue. It was super cool. And then we also just did a prom dress giveaway. We were able to give out dresses for free, which is really important because prom dresses can be expensive, and that's not really easy for everybody to access. And it was a big event, so it was really great. And then right after our last board meeting, we were also able to crown our Rose Princess, which is Lydia Yadego. And then also, right after that, I was not able to announce how much money we raised for Tucker, which is our Scots Angel, and we were able to raise $30,000 for Tucker and his family, which, yeah, I think that is the most we've ever raised, and it's just amazing how our community can come together like that. And then for fine arts, our wind ensemble, symphonic orchestra, and symphony all took first place in league, which is a huge accomplishment. And then, yeah, that was pretty good. It was really good. And then our flag football team is currently undefeated right now, and they would just beat another undefeated team, which was Nelson, which I think that was on Tuesday, and they're really fun to watch, so I recommend them. And then we also just had multiple track athletes go to Oregon Relays, which is an incredibly competitive event at University of Oregon. and we had a freshman place top 10 in the 100 meters race, which is super impressive because these people are fast. Like, it is hard to get top 10. And then actually right now our boys volleyball team is playing Park Rose in the north, so let's wish them some good luck. And that's all I have.
Thank you so much. And this is your last meeting with us, yeah?
Well, I was going to ask this. You're coming next month, aren't you?
I think so.
I mean, no pressure.
Yeah.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but I think
Hopefully.
you are. I was going to ask if you could just update us. This is your senior year. Do you have kind of plans for next year? And
Okay, I know I want to go out of state, hopefully, and go to a 4-year university. I'm thinking political science or biochemistry. But I'm also, the school that I'm closest to committing to is Syracuse, which is in New York, which is super cool. But I don't have a set plan yet.
Got it. Just and didn't mean to put you on the spot. We just are always interested in it. And do you mind if Leaderson actually introduces himself just real quick?
Yeah.
Good afternoon, guys. My name is Leaderson Karaoke. I believe I've worked with a lot of you guys before in Presidential Council and a lot of different meetings in school. And I am honored to serve as your next ASB president. I'm excited to work with you, and I would like to commend Jacob for the good work he has done. He's made the transition smooth, and happy to work with you guys.
Thank you both.
Okay. Thank you so much. Anybody else? Any questions? Great. All right. We are moving on to public comment, and we have some folks signed up. We're going to start with Marianne Dunbar, followed by Colleen Vala, and then after that, Nikki Witten, and then Alicia Bitte Tyron. And I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing those names. Sometimes hard to see. All right, Marianne, you are welcome to go. Yeah.
Last time I was in here, we didn't use the microphones. Okay. I'm speaking to you. My name is Marianne Dunbar, last name Dunbar. I am a library media assistant at Ventura Park Elementary, and I'm speaking on behalf of some of my colleagues and also on behalf of our paraeducator mentors. Their positions have recently been cut for next year, which I understand. But I just wanted to say how valuable an asset they have been for us. They have been there since new hire orientation and have continued to show up again and again every time we ask. Sorry. This year has been especially tough for us. We have become an SLC hub. We have had more questions, more needs, more asks, more training requests, and they have showed up again and again, even when it's just for a shoulder to cry on, because it's been hard. I am not sure who will now answer all of the questions that we have had. As new hires, who is going to be the point person for us to ask questions of? Who is going to be that buffer between, oh, you need this person in this department, oh, you need to talk to so-and-so in IT, this is a question for your school secretary. All of those random questions that pop up as a new hire, who is now going to field all of those things? Because it's hard coming into a really large district with lots of new coworkers, and it's not easy being the new person when everybody else has seemed to know each other and to know all the things. It's really hard to step into that, and they have been a wonderful buffer for all of our new hires. And for even as a continuing classified staff member, when I have questions, I know I can field them to Ika and Karen, and they will be prompt in response and point me in the right direction or go looking for the answer that I don't have time to go and find. I am a little worried that we will not have a trainer next year, somebody to ask those training questions of, somebody to come into our classrooms when we are in desperate need for guidance. How do we make this work? How is this? Do you have any ideas to help us with these students? I am concerned that those questions will now remain unanswered, and that we are going to have more stress on an already stressed system. And I understand budgets are tight and things have to go. I'm just not looking forward to a year without ICA and care.
Thank you for your testimony. Colleen Vala.
Hi, my name is Colleen Vala, and I was here once before, earlier this fall, speaking on behalf of a colleague of ours at Lincoln Park who has been in the district for 25 years and was on a medical leave because she was injured by a student that required surgery. I'm here tonight to represent all of our teaching staff and support staff at Lincoln Park, also to represent another teacher who is on current medical leave for her mental health, and our student achievement specialist who's been in education 21 years and whose position will no longer exist next year. I've been in the district 25 years, and this is my 25th year at Lincoln Park. So we had a staff meeting on Tuesday this week, and we all collectively felt the weight of our day-to-day and immediately started talking about how we needed to present a picture of that for you and invite you to come see what life is like every day at Lincoln Park. And I'm sad that Althea is not here, but I will extend an invitation to her. She's our person. But this letter is written on behalf of everyone at Lincoln Park. Dear David Douglas School Board, we are writing to express our deep concern for the staffing cuts planned for our district. We are already feeling like we are not always able to meet the academic, social, and behavioral needs of our students. Because we are dedicated professionals who care about our students, many of us are already struggling with burnout, overwhelm, and at times, even despair. We are already seeing the effects on staff and students as educators are seeking out mental and physical health care, even needing to take leave as the extreme stress and anxiety from working within a system that is not working for our kids wears away at all of us. Our students are needing more and more, and it seems that we have less and less to give them. Our workload is too heavy, and the needs of our students are too numerous and complex for us to have success. We are very concerned about what will happen next year with even less support. We implore you, school board members, and district leadership to please come and spend a significant amount of time at our school so that you understand our current reality. And this is sincerely from all of Lincoln Park staff. Sorry, I'm sitting here with Lisa Oglesby and Sarah Kelly, who are also dedicated and long-term employees of David Douglas District. So thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for your testimony. So, Nikki and Alicia, you were those two here? No? Oh, okay. Sorry. I'm trying to.
Just kidding. That's okay. I've only done this one other time. So my name is Nikki Witten. I'm going to be talking about the new teacher mentor cuts that are happening. And I'm right now wrapping up my 6th year of teaching. Although I'm not 100%, I would have gotten to this point without that new teacher mentorship program. My first year of teaching was during COVID, and I started online. Trying to navigate teaching, grading, and how to support students in this format was very overwhelming. I wanted to just teach students via notes, just give them notes, and then give them a practice and call it good, because I felt like this was going to be easier. My mentor teacher at the time was Steve Vansel. He encouraged me to pair this direct method of teaching with very engaging strategies like using Pear Deck and pushing me to do this allowed me to not only build relationships with my students even through a computer, but also prepared me for coming back to in-person teaching. Without him, I would not be the effective teacher that I am today. This mentorship program is vital for retaining new teachers. I talked to a few of my colleagues today, and they had very great things to say about the teacher mentors that are currently working at our high school. Grant Collins says that he wouldn't be the teacher he is today without his mentor, Julie Talley. He says that she taught him effective classroom management skills, effective strategies for engagements with students, among many other things. Another colleague, Seda Adams, said that Megan Lingenhausen helped navigate learning how to become a learning specialist and a case manager, even though Megan didn't know a lot about SPED. Megan took extra time to seek out training on SPED so that she could effectively support Seda in learning to be a learning specialist. This mentorship program is very vital, and although it's going away, veteran teachers will be there to support new teachers, but they're already doing so much. As a new teacher, it was a lot easier to ask for help and support from somebody whose job it was to support me than it was from somebody who was down in the trenches with me. A lot of the time, I would go to ask another colleague for help, and then I would stop myself, my anxiety would kick in, and I'd be like, nope, they're too busy, I'll just do this on my own. But I had Steve, so I didn't have to let the anxiety overcome. I could just be like, no, I have Steve, I'll just go ask Steve. And so I am really worried about the impacts that this is going to have on retaining teachers. The retention rate is about 5 years, and I fear that might be less if we let those people go. Thank you so much for listening to what I have to say. If those funds come back, please consider bringing this program back.
Thank you for your testimony. One more. We gotcha.
Okay, this is going to be fast because I want to respect the time limit. Good evening, y'all. I'm Alicia Tryon. I've had the privilege of working in our district since 2019. I started as a SPED IA, and then I participated in the Grow Your Own program, becoming a licensed teacher with an endorsement in special education. I currently work at Ventura Park, teaching second grade, and I have loved every role I've had in this district. I could tell you countless stories of how these invaluable individuals helped me grow and improve my classroom. From our building SAS to people like Mrs. McNeil at the district office, teach you basically everything you should learn in teaching college, but don't. For example, how to have really hard conversations with parents, how to collect enough data to give meaningful assessments, especially how to work with those exceptional friends that you're just not really sure what to do with, and so much more. But due to time, I'll stick to 2 impacts. Our building SAS is Mrs. Roosevelt, and she has such a special place in my heart. She's really helped me improve my ECRI delivery by coming in and coaching me and giving me strategic feedback. She helped me learn how to maximize digital resources in my classroom, and also taught me how to motivate students really well. We spent countless hours together going over data and learning how to use that information to create meaningful small groups. Another SAS that I had an amazing experience with was Miss Becca when I was doing a long-term sub position at West Powhurst. She said something that always stuck with me from a trip we took to Gresham to watch an ECRI lesson. So I want to share that experience with you. This was my first time in a school building and in another district in Portland. I was taken back by how bougie it looked. Everything looked like it was from Lakeshore House. This teacher had about 30 students in his classroom, and every pencil was sharpened. The class was Pinterest perfect, and he even had framed art with its own lighting in his room. So during the debriefing, all of us were very distracted by the aesthetics we were seeing. And Miss Becca did stop us and pointed out that that district chooses to spend money on the things you can see. However, they don't have people like her in the building. They don't have people that invest in their teachers and make sure that they're able to keep honing their craft as they go. And I realized if the trade-off was someone like her who would share her years of wisdom and experience and invest in me for awesome pencils in a Pinterest classroom, I would pass. I'm here today because I know the ship has already sailed for these fundings of these positions, but no way are these throwaway positions. People like Mrs. McNeil, Miss Becca, Miss Roosevelt use their years of wisdom and pour them into upcoming teachers, and it's absolutely invaluable. I think that the fact that they're a part of our team and invest in educators is what makes us better than all the other districts. So I thank you so much for your time and allowing me the privilege to come in and speak to you all on behalf of these incredible staff members that have poured so much life, wisdom, and knowledge, not even into myself, but into my learning community and to my class. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for your testimony. Next on the agenda, we have the DDEA. If you have some folks. Thank you.
Good evening. Proud to be here tonight. My name is Lincoln Fisher. I'm a kindergarten teacher at Gilbert Park Elementary School. I'm also one of David Douglas Education Association's vice presidents. Very, very proud of both of those roles. I love teaching kindergarten here in David Douglas. This is my 11th year, all in David Douglas. I meet kids in September. A lot of them don't know a single letter, don't know the alphabet. June, they're readers, they're writers, they're scientists and mathematicians. And watching that happen every year, I'm just totally hooked on it. I don't think I could live without it. But the same goes for the labor organizing I do for the district as well, for my coworkers. I'm really, really proud. Just the last 3 years, we've really transformed our lives just by working together, that kind of unity that we've created. We've improved the way that we live and we work, and I'm just proud to be part of that I got to be on board for it. I'm here today to talk about cuts. You can hear some of our members discussing the cuts that are happening. It's a grim subject, and I've been watching this year as cuts roll out across the state. I think in February, our statewide union, the Oregon Education Association, reported that over 1,000 educators in Oregon have already lost their job to cuts this school year. And the news for next year's, it's grim across the state, reading bad news every morning. And since cuts were announced for next year in our own district, people have been grabbing me in the hallway, faculty rooms, meetings, and they're saying to me, Lincoln, I could not have done this job without the new educator mentor program. I don't understand how elementary schools are going to function without an SAS. And I know the DEI TOSA position and the classified mentor positions, those were sort of newer positions, and they were just really starting to bear some amazing fruit that I think all of us were really excited by and proud of. And so it's very hard to say goodbye to those next year. You heard in different forums tonight, people asking you to remember these programs when our state comes to its senses and commits to investing in public education in a meaningful way. And I want to ask that directly. Do not forget these programs. These are meaningful programs for the educators in this district and meaningful programs for our community. They meant a lot, and their loss is going to pain us next year. I did want to just take a minute. I'm not a grim person by nature, so I didn't want to kind of leave us on this note. I wanted to offer a little hope. I've been looking around the metro area and really our state just in the last year, and I've just been so inspired by the immigrants' rights organizations and networks that are just springing up all over the state. These are being self-organized. They're springing up from church groups, community organizations, and just caring people all over the place. I've been watching it happen and thinking about how we stand up and fight for a better future for the kids in this community. And I feel like I'm drawing some lessons from those organizations. There's two. The first one is unity. I'm seeing radical unity happening across Oregon. people that have nothing in common, really putting it all on the line for their neighbors, for each other, and also for kind of big ideas to beyond their neighborhood, ideas like democracy and due process. And that's been, that unity has been very inspiring. And I think for a better future, we're going to need more of that. The other thing that I've seen is organization. I've seen good-hearted, smart people go it alone, and they cannot do it. We need to be together, and we need to be in meaningful networks that can affect change. And I think, I'd like to think that the David Douglas Education Association can be part of that here in this community. A couple of things that I'm going to draw strength from in the coming days as we kind of deal with these cuts. I thank you for listening tonight. Part of my role for the union is to get people to come to the school board meetings and talk to you, and I say over and over again, people do not understand the jobs that we do unless you tell them. And the other part of that is people do not understand unless they listen. So I thank you each month for listening to my members as they come to speak to you. It really means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now we have OSEA comment.
I left my notes on my desk, so my great principal took a picture, but I have really old eyes. So I just want to say I do agree 100% with what was said tonight. My statement tonight is a little more lighthearted. Hopefully lighthearted, and I can get through this. So this is actually directed to our board members and our cabinet as well. As my time as Chapter 40 president comes to a close after 11 years, I find myself reflecting with a mix of gratitude and emotion. It has truly been an honor to serve in this role and to work alongside so many of you over the years. During my tenure, I've had the opportunity to collaborate closely with many of you, and I have deeply appreciated being invited to the table when important topics arose and that affect our classified employees. That inclusion has made a meaningful difference, not just in decisions, but in ensuring that classified voices were heard and valued. I especially want to acknowledge our current board. Classified staff have generally felt your support, and it has had a really big impact. Having a board that respects and recognizes the work that our classified workforce is something that does not go unnoticed, and it has meant a great deal to those that I have represented. Being asked to bring the classified voice to the board meeting was always an honor, even though it's not my favorite thing to do. Still, I understand the importance and the responsibility, and I'm grateful for the trust placed in me as I speak on behalf of others. As I reach the end of my tenure, it is truly bittersweet. I think back on the incredible advances we've made for the classified staff, the strong and lasting relationships built with administration and colleagues, and the many moments where I was able to help someone in a time of crisis. These are moments I will carry with me, and the ones that mean the most, that I'll miss the most. Thank you for the respect and the collaboration and the shared comments to doing what is best for our schools and our people. I leave this role proud of what we've accomplished together and hopefully for the continued progress. And then also I really want to extend a huge thank you to Andy Long, Pat Komar, and Darcy Powers for meeting with our e-board once a month, listening and discussing matters that are currently taking place and then finding solutions to move forward. I really, really appreciate them. And Darcy Powers, bless her heart, she answers the phone every time I call. So thank you all.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your years of service. Do we have everyone here for the Indian education?
Shane?
and that is invited public input. The first that we have is Arab American Heritage Month with Amy. Are you here? Yes. Awesome. West Palhurst.
Hello, my name is Amy Fennell, and I am one of the co-chairs for our equity team at West Palhurst. This is my 23rd year in the district. My first year at West Palhurst, everything else has been at Gilbert Heights, so I say all the wrong things all the time. But I'm so pleased to be here to share about National Arab American Heritage Month. This was a lot of learning for us and unlearning, and it was really fantastic because when we chose this, because we all have a mad dash when the data sheet opens to pick the month that we want the fastest so that we can not go in September. And we're fighting. We're like, open this, open it. Okay, go. And it's a mad dash. But we were really excited to choose National Arab American Heritage Month because at West Palhurst, we have a very large Dari-speaking community. Well, unbeknownst to us, because we did some learning, Dari folks from Afghanistan don't necessarily identify themselves as Arab American or Arab at all. We'll get to that at the end. But Arab American Heritage Month celebrates the heritage and culture and pays tribute to the contributions of Arab Americans in the month of April. It's been really, really great to go through all of these different things. I apologize for the cursive. We tried to think about changing it, and it was too late, and that's okay, but we're going to do better next time so that it is more accessible to everybody. So apologies for that. Arabic is the 5th most spoken language in the world, spoken by more than 400 million speakers. And much of what is written, classical or old Arabic, comes from the events recorded in the Quran, the holy book of the Islamic faith, around the 7th century CE. It's spoken in over 30 different dialects and ways. So one folk may speak it this way, and it's not necessarily going to be the same, but it's going to be similar, like a lot of our dialects here in America. It has influenced lots of other languages, and so you might see that you have some Arabic leaning in Turkish, Spanish, Urdu, Kurdish, Bosnian, Bengali, Hindi, Indonesian, Punjabi, and also English. This was the best part in my class, talking about the different countries, because they had never heard of Djibouti in that way, one of the countries that has Arabic as an official language. So it's been really special to go through our world maps and checking out all these different countries. Our counselor, Mrs. Clower, does come in every week to every classroom, and one of the weeks of the month she does the cultural heritage education part. And it's been really fun to see all the different Arab students in our area that speak Arabic as well as their other native languages, because of their faith or because of where they're from, just lighting up because they're like, oh, that's my language. And they are the experts, and it's been really fantastic to learn from them. We have students from many of these 22 different countries. This is our hallway bulletin board that we are highlighting from the lessons that Mrs. Clower teaches, talking about what things have been brought into our culture because of Arabic countries, and also some pretty famous folks like, I don't know, Casey Kasem, trying to explain what a DJ originally was tricky. Well, what's a disc? Well, it wasn't a disc yet. So anyway, it was just really fun, but it kind of made us older folks a little happy that we knew some of these people. And I didn't know Steve Jobs was from an Arabic culture. My class decided to jump in a little earlier than April, and we read the story, The Arabic Quilt. It is an immigrant story about a little girl it is a true story by Aya Khalil, about moving from Egypt to the United States. We read this during Ramadan, and so I chose an Islamic Ramadan tile for us to use to create our own Arabic quilt for room 11. Learning through my students' eyes has been so wonderful. So here's a picture. I'll show you at the end because it's big but what we did is each child made a tile, and they decided to decorate it how they identified. Some made their own flags. Okay, this is mine. So don't think this is third grade, but that's my picture. Some students used their own cultural flags. So we have some Afghani flags. We have a Myanmar flag in there. We have a Tongan flag. We have flags from around the world. We cut them into quarters and made a patchwork quilt out of paper for our own class, talking about how our cultures are who we are, but when we mix them together with each other, we come even better and stronger together. And they have been just really, really embracing this fact. And it's just been pretty special to do that with my students. What we did learn is that Arab Afghans do exist. So it's not just all students from Afghanistan. So some of my students do not identify as Arab. They actually identify as white Asian. And I was like, I am fascinated. And talking to parents at conferences, I got some great stories and understanding. We had another part of unlearning, which was pretty great. But in northern Afghanistan, there are some actual provinces that do identify as Arab Afghans, so we weren't totally wrong, thank goodness. But there's been a language shift. While they identify as Arabs in Afghanistan, in this area, the community has lost the native Arabic tongue, and they now speak Dari, or Afghan Persian. So we are hoping that Parent Square is listening in and that they will learn to, and Google Translate can add Dari to that for us, because we have so many families that would benefit from that service. It's always listening. Something's listening. The history of this Arab Afghan area is they're believed to be descendants of Arab settlers who moved to the region during the Islamic conquests in the 7th and 8th centuries. So this has been a few minutes, right? They've been around for a long time, and so we're really excited that they are sharing their culture with us still so that we can continue learning. But it is important that we learn from the languages of Central Asian, back one first, that this group, we distinguish them from the group of just regular Arab Americans, but two lifted in the Afghan census, they do identify also as Tajiks, Hazaras, and Armeniagas. I practiced with my kids, but they said it was okay for that last word. I don't speak the language. So really, really thinking about, we can't lump kids together. We can't lump people together because it's easier for us. So I really appreciated the opportunity to do the unlearning. The last slide that we have is my co-chair, Elise Wyrostic, organized this family read-alouds, and this is a smattering of pictures from our Dari Family Connection and Native Language read-aloud, and this is just the Dari family ones. We've had multiple ones, but it was a phenomenal turnout, and there are others already scheduled, so we would love for anybody to come and join and visit with us as they're happening, and come see what's happening at West Palahurst in these areas. And thank you so much for giving us this space to have time to learn about each other and our different cultures. It's so important. And I will stop teaching math anytime I can to make that cultural connection, because that's more important than them being able to add sometimes, so that they feel seen as well. So thank you so much for the time, and appreciate you guys. Here's our quilt.
Thank you so much. And let's not even get started where math came from, right? Wonderful. Thank you so much. The next, we have Autism Acceptance with Gilbert Heights. Grace.
Is it on? Yeah. It's a tough act to follow. Our presentation is not as thorough. But I did hear Amy share some wonderful comments about, we're stronger together because of our differences, and that really highlights the points that we'd like to share about autism acceptance. So autism it's important to know that it's a naturally occurring variation. There's nothing to be fixed about it, right? And in the human brain, it influences how that person interacts with their environment and communicates with those around them. But it's a different way of processing information. it's like I said, it's not something to be fixed. It's often characterized by strong preferences for routine, a deep focus on specific interests, and a unique perspective on patterns and details. One of my students who has been identified with ASD this year, his brain is so wired for patterns. We're learning fractions right now, and he's taught himself decimals. I haven't said the word decimals, but he's figured it out. And hearing his classmates say, he's a genius. I don't know if he understands all of that because his expression is not always as complete, but it's a different way of looking at things, and there are gifts that everyone brings. So rather than being a condition to be fixed, it's a fundamental part of that person's identity that shapes how they experience the world. And just as Amy was saying, the more that we can bring in how students see the world and experience the world into the classroom, they'll light up and engage more in the learning too. So reminding us that there's no single right way for a mind to function. We love this quote, if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. That's by Dr. Stephen Shore. So it's important to know that it's not a monolith. There's a broad range and a diverse range of human experiences within autism spectrum. And while autistic individuals navigate daily life, some of them with minimal impact, others are significantly impacted. And so as educators, it's just really important to focus on true acceptance and celebrating the unique diversity that the spectrum brings, while also acknowledging and supporting the real challenges that some of our students may have. So it's adjusting, what should students be able to do to make sure that all students are getting what they need. And that's all we have. She's my moral support.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, we have a proclamation to read, my dear friends, colleagues. And I will start the first paragraph, and then we'll go this way. Okay. So, David Douglas School District proclamation proclaiming the month-long celebration of Arab American Heritage Month in April. Whereas for more than a century, Arab Americans have been making valuable contributions to virtually every aspect of American society, including science, medicine, law, business, education, technology, government, military service, and culture, and
whereas Victor George Atea, who served as the 32nd governor of the state of Oregon from 1979 to 1987, was the first Arab American elected as a state governor in the United States, and
whereas since migrating to the United States, persons of Arab descent have shared their rich cultural and traditions with neighbors and friends, while also setting examples as model citizens and public servants, and
whereas Arab Americans brought with them to the United States their resilient family values, a strong work ethic, dedication to education and diversity in faith and creed that have added strength to our great democracy, and
whereas Arab Americans have enriched our society by sharing the entrepreneurial American spirit that makes our nation free and prosperous, and
whereas the history of Arab Americans in the United States remains neglected or defaced by misconceptions, bigotry, anti-Arab hate in the form of crimes and speech, and
whereas issues currently affecting Arab Americans, such as civil rights abuses, harmful stereotyping, and bullying, must be combated through education and awareness, and
whereas Arab Americans join all Americans in the desire to see a peaceful and diverse society where every individual is treated equally and feels safe, and
whereas the contributions and heritage of Arab Americans have helped us build a better nation.
Now, therefore, I, Stephanie Stevens, on behalf of Heather Franklin, Chair of the David Douglas School Board of Directors, do hereby proclaim April 21st through April 30th, 2026 to be Arab American Heritage Month in the David Douglas School District. Be it further resolved that the David Douglas School Board of Directors strongly encourages our staff and community to observe, recognize, and celebrate the culture, heritage, and contributions of Arab Americans to our country, our state, our cities, and our schools. Okay, do we have the NAPAC? Friends, not yet. Okay. Well, how about, do we have the presenters for our Staff of Color update? Everyone's here for that? Okay. We'll move you next.
Thank you so much for allowing us this time to present on behalf of the Staff of Color Group, and we would also like to honor Arab American Heritage Month. My name's Andreina Velasco, and I'm a member of the Staff of Color Planning Team. My role is the Grow Your Own Pathway Navigator based out of the district office and David Douglas High School. I will let my fellow colleagues on the Staff of Color Planning Team introduce themselves at this time.
My name is Katie Wu, 4th grade teacher at Gilbert Park.
Craig Brown, I'm the ISS monitor at Floyd Light Middle School.
Mel Bourbon Tavares, I am the Learning Specialist Instructional Assistant at Ron Russell Middle School and a proud Grow Your Own participant.
And David Douglas alum. All right, next slide, please. Our goals today are to reacquaint board members with the purpose and background of our district Staff of Color Group and to share achievements, impact, and priorities of district Staff of Color. Next slide.
Oh, so here are some pictures.
Hold on, let me.
Oh, that's still you? I'm so sorry.
No. It's, you gotta go
Oh,
there.
sorry. Okay, so so this is the purpose. Our Staff of Color Group provides a space for district BIPOC staff to connect, heal, and advocate for increased representation in our school's district educator workforce. And these are just some pictures from our different events and spaces that we've held. Next slide, please. Why should we have a Staff of Color Group in DDSD? As you can see, David Douglas students lack educators who share their lived racial and cultural experiences. So we did some research about the positive effects of having a BIPOC teacher, and all of these things are cited at the end of the slideshow. So research shows that teachers of color benefit all students, both academically and socially. Studies find that they often set higher expectations for students of color, helping them improve in reading, math, and critical thinking. Teachers of color also provide significant benefits to white students, including improved academic outcomes in math and reading, enhanced critical thinking, and reduced racial prejudice. Social emotionally, research finds that students with teachers of color have a 19% fewer suspensions, stronger self-esteem, and are much less likely to be chronically absent. In some studies, about 60% less likely. Teachers of color also serve as role models, inspiring students to imagine what they can achieve. For Black students, the research shows even stronger benefits. They're up to 34% less likely to be placed in special education and are more likely to go to college, 13% higher with one Black teacher and 32% with two. Black boys from low-income families have 39% lower high school dropout rates. So in short, research consistently shows that teachers of color support learning, engagement, and learned-term success for all students, and especially powerful effects for Black students.
Thank you, Katie. Next slide. We wanted to provide some background on how our Staff of Color Group got started. In 2020, in a district context of budget cuts and a national context of racial equity reckoning, BIPOC staff organized to demand that the district prioritize racial and cultural representation in our hiring, curriculum, and professional development. These demands became our Staff of Color Freedom Dreams, a concept that we learned from abolitionist educators like Robin DiAngelo and also Bettina Love. Since 2020, BIPOC leaders in the Staff of Color Planning Team have collaborated with district and union leadership to work towards our freedom dreams. Next slide. What are the Staff of Color Freedom Dreams? Freedom Dream 1 is that we want the district to adopt a culturally responsive curriculum that affirms the identity of Black and brown students. Freedom Dream 2, we want the district to rethink, reimagine, and reconstruct our professional development system to provide high-quality training on equity and culturally responsive practices for all licensed and classified staff. Freedom Dream 3, we want to build a district culture that is unapologetic about hiring staff of color to increase representation of our student population. And Freedom Dream 4, we want the district to unapologetically prioritize retaining staff of color so that efforts to increase representation of our student population are sustained and expanded. These Freedom Dreams are also aligned with our district equities commitments, as you'll see in this slide. Pass it on to Craig. Next slide.
Thank you, Andrina. Now, in light of that, I would like to highlight some of our accomplishments since the year 2020, starting with a curriculum adoption process informed by our student equity lens, Black students and Latinx students classes at a high school level. A Grow Your Own program primarily servicing BIPOC students and certified staff who want to become educators in our district. Equity teams and PD in every building and program across the district. Student and staff affinity spaces led by BIPOC staff in almost every building. Bilingual stipend for certified staff and ASK led by BIPOC staff, classified staff. In addition to that, we have a training and protection and preparation of ICE informant for classified and certified staff. This effort was led by BIPOC staff in collaboration with district leadership. Next slide, please. And the impact on these accomplishments through BIPOC staff is a 5.1% growth in licensed staff of color, 9.4% growth in classified staff of color, 30 BIPOC staff graduated with teaching and counseling license, and finally, 125 BIPOC staff have participated in one or more staff of color activities. I would like to now quote some of the BIPOC staff who this has been impacted by. Being in a space where we can have fun, feeling like we belong, while also talking about the action towards the challenges we want to see. I really enjoyed meeting and connecting with other staff of color from the district. It was nice to have a space to collaborate, learn, and advocate with others. I felt unalone. The staff of color group have gave me a space I needed to be committed with BIPOC staff employees about our experiences. As a new and young employee, this space has been a blessing. I cannot thank them enough. And lastly, I enjoyed and appreciated the space to collaborate and connect, to discuss what we are experiencing in our own district. This was validating and showed that even though our district is taking steps in the right direction, there is still a lot of work to be done. Next slide, please.
And then they're highlighted here if you just want to read the highlighted ones.
And I would also like to highlight some of the quotes from the students within our district on how BIPOC staff has impacted them. They give me confidence and make me feel like I am smart when we work on assignments. They treat me like family. I always feel heard when I talk to someone that looks like me. I can trust them because I know they really want to help me and they aren't going to make me feel bad even if I do something wrong. They are always smiling and making me feel happy. Lastly, because they can make me laugh and they are cool. They also understand me when I am upset or confused. And now I'll pass it to Mel.
As we have shared, staff that reflect our student population play a critical role in creating a safe and inclusive classroom environment. A way BIPOC staff have already achieved this is by leading student affinity spaces which are presented at almost every David Douglas School District site. Gabby, one of our colleagues and staff of color planning team members, also runs a BSU at Gilbert Park. And this is these are some of the quotes that they had to say about the group.
And this is like an older version, so you're not going to see the exact same ones, but I will, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. We can be who we want to be in BSU. Being in our own community is special. It's very welcoming, and you don't get judged for being who you are. Okay. Next slide, please.
If you go back to the last one again, it'll be right. There we go, because that's the wrong one.
Oh, okay. I've also had the pleasure of collaborating with Leslie Farfan in starting the first LSU, Latino Student Union, and Ron Russell Middle School. And here are some quotes from staff and students that highlight that I want to highlight tonight. Thank you. They can understand and celebrate my culture. A lot of the students of color go through adversities that are unique to their culture. Staff of color can understand students better and support the students more effectively. Los niños no pueden aprender si no tienen a personas que puedan ayudarlos con el inglés, which translates to, the kids can't learn if they don't have a person that can help them, like with the English. It's important for the students to see themselves in the staff. If there wasn't staff of color, they wouldn't envision themselves in the future in professional settings. Next slide. Yeah. Another one, please.
So I don't think it updated.
Oh, that's okay. So we had in our presentation, we had some pictures of the LSU in Ron Russell. So I'll just, share what I have. I'm also honored to have collaborated with Camille Taylor in starting the first Latino Student Union and Black Student Union at the 5th grade level in West Palahurst. I would show you some pictures, but we don't have them right now. But something that I do want to highlight is that some of the BIPOC staff who run these groups are also classified Grow Your Own participants. And this shows the commitment that these staff have to creating equitable learning environments long before becoming certified staff. And I just wanted to highlight that because I think that's really special.
Gracias, Mel. So to conclude, since 2020, BIPOC staff have led district-wide transformation to better serve our majority BIPOC and multilingual students and families. We represent our students and work tirelessly to create safe spaces of belonging. With upcoming budget cuts, which are incredibly unfortunate, we do ask that you consider our top 2 priorities. Funding for BIPOC LGBTQ+ staff in each building to facilitate affinity spaces. Staff time, budget for supplies, and food. Most existing affinity spaces are the result of unpaid BIPOC staff labor who pay for supplies and food from their own pockets. And funding for BIPOC staff who are committed to completing their junior and senior years of teacher, counselor, or social worker prep. And this is currently being funded by our Grow Your Own program, which has, thanks to everyone's advocacy, been renewed. So we really appreciate all of your support for that. And next slide. We hope that you feel more acquainted with our staff of color group purpose and background and have shared in some of our achievements, impact, and priorities. Next slide. So gracias. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your support and everything that you do every day for our students and staff. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions?
Any questions?
No.
Oh, we can say.
Thank you so much. Truly transformative work.
Thank you.
We're going to go back on the agenda because I saw our NAPAC members. And so I'm going to go ahead and declare a brief recess in our board meeting and open a public hearing for application for Title VI Indian Education Funds now. I just have to say, those of us who were here that heard your passionate speech last time you were here about why doesn't David Douglas have Native American studies, you made that happen. And I just want to give you the due, that you deserve there. That is incredible, and generations of students are going to learn because of you. So thank you. We're good? Okay, thank you. Next, gosh, I'm starting to get emotional on that. Also, bring your wallets because there are some great vendors at the powwow. Okay, we're on to a presentation on Child Development Center. The board wanted some more information after our last meeting and some of the testimony we heard, so we asked for this presentation.
Awesome. Good evening. I'm Christy Byfield. I'm the Early Learning Administrator for the district, and I oversee the Child Development Center as of last year.
And I'm Valerie Hill. I'm one of the assistant principals at the high school, and I oversee our early childhood program for our CTE pathways that pushes into the CDC.
And then Pat's joining us as well, because we're going to talk history really quickly, and then Pat's going to go into the budget side of it, because there were questions about that in the last board meeting. So one of the questions we heard that was asked was, when did the Child Development Center start? So we went history digging as a group, dug up everything we could. In 1993, there was a Certificate of Advanced Mastery model that was requested for high school students. This is now what's known as career pathways. In 1994, the Child Development Center opened. That was in the fall of 1994. And in 1998, there was some expansion of the Child Development Center, as well as the introduction of the preschool lab, which today is known as the Double D Learning Lab. These are separate programs, but we felt it was important to just give the history of how they all came to be. 1994, in the very beginning, one of the questions that was asked in the last board meeting was, what was the original intent of the Child Development Center? So this is literally cut and pasted from those documents. Its purpose was to be a quality learning program for young children. It was to facilitate an experience for the high school students as well, and to respond to the community's need for child care. It also did include, from the very beginning of its inception, the teen parent program. So that was part of it from the original beginning. The ages that were recommended at that time were 6 weeks to 6 years in age for students to attend, and there were 3 rooms that opened. One was an infant room, one was a toddler room, and one was a preschool room. There was, at that time, a special emphasis placed on serving families who were low income, not served by Head Start, and unable to pay for preschool, so kind of that gap that we all know existed, and still exists in some ways. In 1998, there was expansion. This was, again, still teen parent focused, high school student focused, as well as community focused. Here you see some language around 30 months to 6 years mentioned. And it had expanded to 5 rooms at this point. So it was 2 infant rooms, 2 toddler rooms, a preschool room, and it was all at North Palhurst, which at the time was known as the East Campus for the high school. Renovations were completed in 1998. So 2 high school classrooms were developed for high school students that were in that CAM program, now Career Pathways. The preschool lab, the 3 childcare rooms, and an observation room so that students wouldn't necessarily have to disrupt a classroom. If they just wanted to kind of see what was happening in the Child Development Center, they could peek into the observation room and look. Next, yeah. Okay, so fast forward to today. It's still a quality program. We are very proud of it. It's really hard to just do the history and the data and the budget without all of the lovely, fun stuff that happens and the passionate staff. But that's not what we're here for tonight. So we're facilitating still an experience for high school students. We continue to see our high school cadet numbers rise every year. There are more and more students that take that pathway at the high school that's available to them. That number has raised significantly. Right now, we're currently at 89 high school cadets. So that's a large number, one of the largest numbers we've had. We also still are available for teen parents. If there's a teen parent that would like to have their child in the Child Development Center, we do have those spaces available. And we respond to the community's need for childcare, which does include David Douglas staff. So there are David Douglas staff who have their children with us, and lots of David Douglas staff have had their children with us over the years historically. So ages-wise, we start at 6 weeks. We go to 3 years old. And there's a caveat there because we would have gone all the way to kindergarten, but we were prepared to have that preschool room this year. And then those students got into preschool for all, and our enrollment in that preschool room disappeared. So the preschool room did not happen this year. So right now we are running an infant room, which is 6 weeks to 12 months, around 12 months. And then we have a wobbler room for our 12-month-olds until they are 2. And then we have a toddler room for our 2 to 3-year-olds. And then if teen parents are identified, we are able to serve without cost. There's no cost to a teen parent who has their child with us. We are at this point serving the majority of the kids that are attending are David Douglas staff children. And there are some community, but it's a smaller portion right now. Here we get into data over time. I present graphs in 2 different ways just because different people like to see different information in different ways. This is the overall picture of the graph. Some years you'll see there are some gaps in some years. We went back and dug everywhere we could, every single one of us, trying to find any data we could, and we put in everything we could find, but there are some data gaps for sure. And then when we're talking teen parents specifically in this presentation this evening, we're not talking district-wide teen parent numbers. We're just talking about teen parents as it relates to the Child Development Center. So it's not that there are no teen parents in David Douglas. It's just when we talk about the Child Development Center specifically, currently these are the teen parent numbers we have for that specific purpose. This is what that same information looks like when it's in a different style of graph. So this kind of shows what that looks like from beginning to now. This is the teen parent data. So again, that's just the Child Development Center teen parent data. Currently, we have no teen parents in the Child Development Center. We have had teen parents express interest, and then things happen as they make a different choice with where they want to do their schooling, or maybe something happens in their home and they go to like online academy, something like that. So things have happened. We have teen parents that do connect with us, but we haven't had one enroll yet. This is the total enrollment broken down by non-staff. So there's staff children in the gold kind of color. Those are the staff, David Douglas staff children. And then the blue are the community, non-David Douglas staff children. So that's kind of showing what it looks like. You'll see bigger numbers of staff children when there were splits. So for a long time, for many years, people could apply and enroll and do like 1 or 2 days or maybe 3 days, not necessarily 5-day spots. And so there were some splits, which gives you more adults, that you're more staff children, right? So like a staff, 2 staff might come together and fill 1 spot. So that's the big number you see in staff children, is because there were splits that were allowed for many years. This year is the first year that we did not do splits. We have 5 full day enrollment for a variety of reasons, but the 5 full day is what we are currently doing. We did grandfather in after last year's board meeting. There was discussion last year's board meeting about rates and splits, and we did grandfather in those that were already with us to be able to continue the splits for this year. So there are still some that are split for this year. They're sharing a spot. So maybe two kids are two families are sharing one spot. Let me get into staffing. So the first reminder is around ratios, because this comes up a lot, and I end up talking about ratios quite a bit. When we're talking about the infant room, we're talking about 1 adult to 4 infants. When we're talking about wobblers, we're talking about 1 adult per 4 wobblers. And when we're talking toddlers, we're going 1 adult per 5 toddlers. In preschool, it is 1 adult to 10 children, to 10 preschoolers. And that's the same ratio that we have to follow as well in our preschool and our district-wide preschool classrooms that we have as well. So that requirement is a state requirement that we have to meet. Even 1 more kid in any one of those rooms requires that we add an adult. So we can't go out of ratio at any point. There was a time where high school cadets were used to assist in the staffing ratios, but we shouldn't do that, and we don't. So these students cannot be counted as part of the staffing ratio. They're in the classrooms, they're observing, but they are also students themselves. And so they're not background clearanced with the central background registry that we have to do. They're not actually eligible to do that until they're 18. And so we really cannot count our high school students in our ratio, nor would we want to, because they are students as well, and they're there to learn. At the bottom, I did put in a caveat that has changed. School districts are now license exempt. We are considered license exempt. However, because we bill employment-related daycare, because we bill the Department of Early Learning and Care, we have to maintain all the same requirements as if we were licensed, even though we are considered license exempt. So even though we say we are license exempt, we still have to maintain the same licensure requirements that are out there for childcare and in-home daycare. This is the staffing graph over time. Again, we've got some data gaps here, but basically showing what the staffing looks like and then what it looks like today. So in the past, there was support roles. When you see support roles, that's the certified high school teacher, and then 1 records clerk or secretary. I came on, my position was new just a few years ago, and so I started overseeing the CDC in 24-25, so we just made notes there of when things happened. And then high school students, there's some shifting that has happened with the high school teacher, where she is, now that I'm in that position, in that role, I do more of the administrative and the licensure compliance pieces, and the focus is for that high school teacher, where before it might have been some of those pieces, is now really on the high school instruction for the cadets that come into that program. This is the same information, just in a different graph format. This is a slide that there was a change in, they were called classified assistants, building assistants. They've been called different things over the years. Our staff that are in the Child Development Center are called Early Childhood Development Specialists today. We refer to them as our ECDSs. This is the same title that our preschool classified staff carry. They're also ECDSs. So that's consistent across the district. The difference between the Child Development Center and the preschools that are district-wide is that there's a licensed teacher in our preschool rooms that are out throughout the district. And in the Child Development Center, it is the classified staff, the ECDSs, who run those rooms. They are the teachers. And they are an integral part of that. And they work with me as well as the licensed high school teacher around what that looks like for lesson planning and growth and conference time and all that stuff. But the classified staff actually run the classrooms. And then in their job description, those are the differences that they have because they are at the Child Development Center and not in our district-wide preschool rooms. These are the specific things that are different for those classified staff that are in the Child Development Center. They do work longer days. They are 8 hours in length. They're an 8.5-hour employee, so they do an 8-hour day. The Child Development Center is Monday through Friday. Our doors open at 7 a.m. and they close at 4:30 p.m. And they're on 193, the staff are on 193 days. We get into Pat.
So I think it's covered up there, but way back in 1999 is when we first see the current description. That's actually about when the new chart of accounts came out. So I'm kind of old because I remember just as that came out. So you can actually go back a year or two and find this, but it's a little bit convoluted, and you have to go to other codes that are a little different. But this basically gave the nutshell description, talked about the number of students in the classroom. I believe we dug this up back in 1998. I'm not exactly 100% sure where it came from, a grant agreement.
Yeah, it was in one of our grant agreements.
And so it talked about the district's financial commitments, and I think there might be a link to the original document here in the presentation. So it does talk about teen parents. It talks about some of the supports, such as free meals, transportation, breakfasts for teen parents, etc. You can go to the next slide. So you can see the sources then. Child Development Grant way back in '94, an enhancement grant, the Teen Parent Block Grant, and tuition. Now ERDC, ODE, or DELC for teen parents when we actually serve them. So that's the caveat. When we serve students in there, we get funding. When we don't, then obviously we don't use the funding to support that program. Mount Hood Community College has a program for folks that are on a wait list for ERDC, and then again, tuition. If we want to go to the next slide. So this is rates over time. When I started, basically I was told that they go out and survey the community to figure out the rates. And so it's been a bit of a process to get, you're doing the rate here, but here's actually what the cost is. So we've been trying to marry those over a number of years. You can see in the last few years, we've been trying to get those increased to match the actual costs. If we want to go to the next slide. So we've got a graph of the rates over time. Next slide. Here's ERDC's current rates. So that's, again, somebody who's eligible for that program that we can get reimbursed for. Next slide. So going back to costs, because I think that was a big question, is, oh my gosh, the cost of the program, why is it so much? And so in 22-23, just a reminder, we started participating in Preschool for All. This program has a wage requirement. It was actually in the levy that was done, so it's not something that they can waive or adjust, which we had a lot of angst and discussion with the county about. At that time, we revised the preschool instructional assistants to the ECDS, or Early Childhood Development Specialist, job description. That had some additional requirements, which when you're doing compensation study, brought the pay up. As such, we looked at the child care assistants that were at the CDC, and we were doing, for those of you that were here then, we were doing a pay equity study, you might remember, and we ended up doing quite a few adjustments. That included these folks. So originally, the CDC staff had two different classifications of assistants, believe it or not, and they were a Class 8 or a Class 9 on the pay schedule. So you can see 18 to 25, 19 to $26. They ended up being moved up to meet that pay requirement, so they got moved from 22 to 30 on the pay scale. Next slide. To give you an idea of what it costs for an ECDS this year, at Step B, which is the first step in the pay scale, $52,542. That's just for the salary and the employer costs, not including the health insurance. Health insurance can range from just over $11,000 to nearly $30,000. You can see that at the top step, we're looking at almost $72,000. Then by the time you add that 29, that's $100,000. So if you do the basic math and you have somebody at Step J, they're $100,000, they're seeing 4 kids. That cost divided by 4 kids is $25,000. So divide that by the number of days, that gets you a pretty high rate. If you want to go to the next slide. This is the actual page in the budget document, so you can kind of see that spike. These are the actuals for 22-23, 365, I think it's about 366,000. The following year, when they got the pay bump, you can see we're almost at 470,000. So almost a little over $100,000 increase in the cost of the program. You can again see those increases for the next 2 years in the proposed and adopted budgets. Can we go to the next slide? So to give you an idea where we're at right now, we have $167,000, almost $168,000 in tuition revenue for the year. We have none for any teen parents because we haven't had any participate. We had planned for an infant, a wobbler, 2 toddler, and a preschool classroom. So again, that cost was $605,000. We have a deficit of nearly $440,000 at this time. If we want to go to the next slide. So looking at this, we obviously, if you look at that sheet, we're not including rent, utilities, insurance, or other administrative costs. The current year does include part of the CDC high school licensed teacher. There's a half a FTE in there. We do plan on moving that out for next year because that program has shifted. But even when you take that out, that does not make that deficit much smaller. The secretary for North Powellhurst is not included in those costs. We have 179 days with the students. That's basically $153, almost $154 per day. We currently have only 17 students, so that's almost $200 per student per day. If we can go to the next slide. So again, we're removing the teacher and calculating daily rates, and that teacher is actually going to be moved back to the instructional budget, so you won't see that in 3,500. We will not include any administrative costs. All the staff next year are classified. We have our classified agreement settled at 4%. All of those staff are eligible for a step, so 4% step, 4% COLA, 8% increase, plus employer costs. That's how we get to that 119 per day per student, assuming the classes are full. We did go through projected fall enrollments. So as we are looking at what we would set up for next year, the 4 infants, the 8 wobblers, the 10 toddlers, 18 preschoolers, we currently only have 1 infant, 4 wobblers, 1 toddler signed up for fall. So it's pretty empty. The note there, all the staff, all of those signed up for the fall are staff children. We did hear a question at the last board meeting. I think someone testified and said, well, what happens if the program is reduced or go away? What happens to me? Just a reminder that classified staff have rights under their collective bargaining agreement for seniority bumping when there's a reduction in force or if we move or place programs. I'm going to turn it back over to Christy.
And then the last slide that we have to show this evening is one of the other questions was why families choose not to stay with the Child Development Center. And this is data that we just started collecting this year. So we don't go back in data for this particular question, but it was important for me. I've been collecting it this year since I started kind of overseeing it, just why are families choosing, because it's important for us to have that data. So 4 families did report that they had concerns about the anticipated move over to the high school from North Palhurst. 1 family was concerned about the upcoming rate increase, and they found a spot in a different childcare for the fall, but they decided to go now to go ahead and secure that spot and that rate that they could get in that childcare now. 10 families did say they were not intending to either re-enroll or enroll due to the rate increase or the proposed rate increases at this time. 2 families did move into toddler spots in-home care. This came up in the last board meeting as well. Some families are choosing to enroll in a toddler spot so that then they can have a better likelihood of getting into a preschool for all spot when their child turns 3. So we did have 2 families that did do that. And then 1 family stated that they would have stayed and continued to pay and pass up free preschool if we'd had a preschool room. You know, sadly, we didn't have one. We don't have one this year. And then last year, going back to last year, we did actually have several families that chose to not enroll for this school year because they learned that the CDC was planning to move mid-year this year. It was originally intended to move at the winter break. And when families heard that, they didn't want to have that disruption for their family, that continuity not being smooth, so they chose to not re-enroll. And that is the presentation part.
Thank you so much. We are a few minutes over time for this, so and are there some, not comments, but specific questions for this?
I just had one question about the referral process for teen or soon-to-be teen parents, and what, if we know what it is currently, maybe we don't.
So in the course of collecting all this data and going through the history, one thing that became very clear really quickly was that there could be a cleanup of that process. Some streamlining, some cleaning of some systems and some processes. I'm not sure, there's been some counselor turnover and some other turnover over the years, and refamiliarizing everyone with that process and what that looks like when a teen parent does come to a counselor and identify as pregnant is something that we actually identified as an area that needs to be reviewed and refined and cleaned up a little bit. So I don't think it's consistent, just based on what I could find.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes.
Regarding teen parents, if there is no CDC, where do they have that same funding benefit other places, or is it only at the district's provided care space?
So when we get a teen parent, we have placed some in a program. I think it's called Helen's View Phoenix. Florence will give me a yes or no. It's Phoenix at Helen's View for teens. And so that's an outside placement, and that gets paid out of the outside placement budget. We would still receive funding based on the student's attendance.
And then
Rosemary Anderson has placements too.
And then following, are only David Douglas School District students eligible for that funding versus like a Park Rose or Centennial student who maybe I don't know what their child care relationships are over there, but if there were, or even a Portland Public teen could have child care here while they're still going to their school, or those options.
Oh, you need to be enrolled with us. Is that the question?
Enrolled in the district.
Which is a topic coming next.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? There was a lot of weeds, and I appreciate it, and I'm going to go over it. Probably have some maybe in writing, but.
Yeah, very helpful. Lots of questions, but I'm only going to ask one. How small of a can we still, like this next year, it looks like we don't have as much enrollment as we expected or something. How small can we operate? Does it line up with reducing that deficit?
That's, I think, something that we need to discuss is, can we reduce down to 1 or 2 classrooms and still remain fairly funded and still provide opportunities for the students? But we haven't quite gotten there yet. We did actually, I'm going to step on Christy's toes because she was amazing, and she contacted Baby Promise, and we had a brief meeting with them today regarding funding. And so we're just kind of looking at some options to try and figure out what's the best solution to go forward.
Okay, thank you.
Super quick. Just wanted to say thank you. I know gathering historical data like this on programs really hard, and I appreciate, because we really want to make the best decision possible. So
Super helpful. Answered a lot of questions, so thank you. Okay. Next, we will talk about interdistrict transfer recommendation. It's an action item.
Let's do it.
Andy.
Let's do it. Good evening, everyone. On the screen, you see the interdistrict transfer recommendations for the 26-27 school year. And as you all know, per Oregon law, the board does determine the number of students we release from our district, and then the number of students that we allow to transfer in to Douglas from other districts around us. As you can see from the second paragraph there, the recommendation is the same that it's been in previous years, and that is let's not put a limit on the number of students we let into the district, and let's not put a limit on the number of students going out. And there's really 2 reasons for that. The main one is that we feel like our families know their students best, and so they know what's best for their children, and we want to give them that choice. And then the second reason is this decision historically has a history of helping us with enrollment. Next year, 2020 or 26-27, we'll have roughly 255 students will attend David Douglas on a current interdistrict transfer renewal from previous years, versus the amount of students we approve coming out, which is right around 190. So that's a difference of about 65 students overall, roughly, coming into Douglas. And so really that shows the process helps us with enrollment, which is something we all know we need right now. So that is our recommendation. And Board Director Stevens, I'll pass it back to you for your recommendation.
Questions? Does someone want to move approval, and then we can discuss?
Move to approve.
It's been moved. Can I get a second?
a second.
All right. Moved, approved, seconded, and any discussion?
Yeah, just curious, is this in alignment with our neighboring districts, this policy?
I don't know if I know the answer to that. Lori, do you?
Districts are all different on the way they do it. It's their school boards that, make that decision with the recommendation of their district. So it's different.
I just don't know if all of them do it the same way we do, where it's freedom really in and out. It's a great question.
And I would say just historically, there was a time when I sat in Andy's seat and did a lot of this. Anyway, with that said, we've always been much more, I'm going to use the word open, in and out, and kind of respecting families' choices. And some of our neighboring districts are much more restrictive on who they let out and why or not. I know that still holds true. We could get actual district by district if you need to, but I know Lori knows there's some districts that people call, how do we get in? Lori says, well, you got to go to your home district first. And, it's like, well, they're saying no, and we don't control that. So there's definitely districts around us that are much more restrictive.
Why are they more restrictive? I'm assuming money, but
Yeah, I don't want to speak for any district. I don't want to, but ultimately, yeah, it's, I mean, if you say in this, we've always honored, if a family asks, we approve it, and we kind of go with that. But when a student leaves, that enrollment money goes with the student. And there are some, in fact, I've watched board meetings, so I know this for fact. Again, I don't want to speak for districts, but there are districts that have conversations. No, we're not going to let them out because we, you know, it is an enrollment thing. It is a dollars and cents thing. Yeah.
Which is too bad, because sometimes we have situations where students have been, let's say, in our school district from first grade to freshman year, and then they move out and they want to move back in their sophomore year, which we have the philosophy that we would allow a student to do that, to move out from, if that happened to us. And that's a great point, because sometimes we call and we have to state our reasoning why, and sometimes districts will approve that, but sometimes they don't, which is just not our style, hasn't been our, and I'm glad for that. I'm glad the way that we do it. Of course, that's my recommendation. I don't make the final call here, but great question.
I want to note that I supported this last year, and I intend to support it again this year. This year, I might have a personal bias. I have a family member who is involved in interdistrict transfer with the district, so just wanted to put that on the record.
Do we collect data on people who apply to leave? And
we collect data.
Not as a friction, but as a just curious if there is something to address that might be a reason families are moving their kids to another.
No, I don't believe we officially have that data of why. We collect data, Thomas, on where they go, and which is kind of interesting, what districts around us where they choose to go to, but we don't have that kind of data on the reason why. No, we don't.
Are we allowed to at least query? Like, it's because of Ken that they're leaving, or
it mostly they say the superintendent
and
the culture, and I didn't want to say that publicly here, but yeah, that is the primary reason.
Any other discussion? All right, let's do the roll call vote, starting here.
Ender, aye.
Stevenson, aye.
Epstein, aye.
Stevens, aye.
Jordan, aye.
Okay, we have the policy approved. Now we have consent agenda.
I move to approve. Is that what I'm saying? Okay.
Sure.
I second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
My laptop's not charged. Can you pull up the contract and purchasing approval in the consent agenda? Is that possible? Maybe. I had some questions about.
Do you want to see?
Oh, yeah. What is the expense to Portland Public Schools when it's Columbia Regional Deaf, Hard of Hearing? Do we know more detail on that?
Those are student placements for deaf, hard of hearing students in their Columbia Regional program. So we don't have a program for deaf, hard of hearing in our district.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, let's start the roll call down here.
Jordan, aye.
Stevens, aye.
Oh, Epstein, aye. I'm sorry.
Stevenson, aye.
Ender, aye.
Great. Moving on to bond update.
Sorry, this one came out a little late for you, so I'll try to be as succinct as possible. We already got our bids in for our movers. We're in the process of making an award for the contract for this summer's construction. The CTE Center, we're still working through some punch list items. We had to make a few adjustments. We found that we had a bit more equipment than the exhaust system could handle, so we had to do some adjustments to it. We also ended up adjusting some of the window treatments in the office area. They were supposed to put in some shades, like above, and we ended up, I think, with curtains, which I'm not sure how, but we'll be modifying that. We also are looking at adding a repeater to the building, so we're having some trouble with cell phone reception and radio reception, and that is typical in newer construction, and so usually we have to add some additional equipment. We've had similar problems at Ron Russell, and we're actually looking at putting in a repeater over there. And somebody asked me, does the bicycle lockers have locks? Yes, they're supposed to have locks. So hopefully all the bicycle lockers that we've added per city have locks, so we don't have any unexpected friends and living in our bicycle racks. The south vestibule, as you saw, we got that wall in, the glass wall and the trophy case. We are still finishing a few punch list items from summer. We are looking at going back to north and exploring adding air conditioning to the office, but that would not happen until next summer. Oh, the project that might finally end, Cherry Park. So we did finally get, I think, most of the things signed off and getting that substantial completion signed off, and then we should be able to wrap that project up. That was way too long. West Mill, both of those have punch list items. For the new work at Mill Park, the HVAC, we're moving forward. PSF approved that project. We did find, a buried oil tank, because, we love things that we just leave behind. So we're just addressing to see that that's been decommissioned properly, and then hopefully we won't have to do any more work with that. Lincoln Park's on track. We're reconciling and closing out for Ridge. We are still commissioning at South Powellhurst. They're doing a little rework on the maintenance shop HVAC. That particular area is a little odd because we've got multiple buildings, and so things run under the asphalt, and sometimes when you disturb one thing or you don't realize that it's attached to the other, we have to do some workarounds, and so they're still doing a couple things there for that. We are working on a design for replacement of the central freezer. So I think I mentioned before, we have a lot of heating in the floor. From what we can tell, it probably wasn't dug down and properly put in years ago. And we're also looking at probably adding additional insulation, and reworking that whole freezer to make it more efficient. Earl Boyles is on track for summer work. Gilbert Park, we're going to need to add some additional electrical service. We've been trying to problem solve that because with PGE, there is a wonderful, beautiful, huge tree right where they actually recommended putting some additional things in. And of course, that's a huge cost when you have to get the city involved with trees. So we're looking at some other options for us, like the initial estimate to take that tree down is $50,000. So we're trying to avoid that cost for something that's not the city. Menlo Park is on track for summer. I think we mentioned this before, but in case it skipped my mind, wood truss assessments, and so we're having our architects review the wooden trusses. They're bringing in some engineering. Insurance notified us last year that we need to have them reviewed for potential issues due to the number of claims they have had when there's been winter weather events. And so I think everybody remembers there's been several that have caved in, thankfully not ours. but we're going to have that looked at and taken care of. Bond Oversight Committee, next meeting's June 16th, so they should be presenting in July. Any questions?
Seeing none, we shall move forward. Thank you, Pat. Next, we have the approval of Human Sexuality Education Plan. This is an action item.
Okay, we're going to have our presenters come up. Thank you all for being here. Hi, Molly. How are you? Okay, Sandy, if you can go to the next slide, please. We'll do introductions with our team who will be presenting tonight. You guys know me, I'm Brooke O'Neill, Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, and we'll start with Molly. We'll go in order.
I'm Molly Franks, she, her. I am a program specialist with the Multnomah County Health Department Community and Adolescent Health Program.
Brandon Brockbank, Science and Health Coordinator, he, him.
Carrie Foster, K-12 Curriculum Coordinator, she, her.
Okay, next slide, Sandy. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about comprehensive human sexuality education in David Douglas. And just want to, before we begin with what that looks like, we want to go over what grounds the work. And the first thing is Division 22, which we share with you every October in our compliance and what that looks like. Comprehensive health education is included, but there's also a separate OAR just around human sexuality education and requirements for that. It also includes child sexual abuse prevention, which you'll hear tonight. It's also referred to as Aaron's Law. And also the State Board of Education adopted standards. This defines the learning. So this is what it establishes what all students are expected to learn K-12, regardless of what school or what district a student in Oregon attends. So it helps with consistency. And when we're talking about human sexuality education, it really builds, it's progressive. You're going to hear more about that tonight, building from safety to relationships to decision making. And within the OAR, it says instruction must be age appropriate and medically accurate. And then the third pillar of this is board policy, which is you ensure the oversight. So this is in our board policy that the board shall approve the plan of instruction and require that it be reviewed and updated biennially in accordance with new scientific information and effective educational strategies. So Stephanie said this is an action item for you tonight. So tonight what we're going to do, you're going to get a high-level overview of human sexuality education laws in Oregon. You're going to hear some regional and local data. We're also going to go over the plan of instruction, which uses our curriculum. You'll hear more about that. And then we'll talk about the components of our sexuality education plan. And then some factors that influence implementation and things that we are actively working on. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Molly to share some data.
Yeah, we have a lot of information to share. So this is a little bit more detail about what Brooke was just saying about the state laws and guidance that apply to all schools K-12 throughout the state. They are designed to help students recognize, communicate, and advocate for their own health and boundaries, and to help them build confidence and skills to navigate the emotional, physical, and social aspects of human sexuality and relationships. So the sexuality education law just talks about how the cadence of instruction, that it needs to start in kindergarten and be age appropriate and continue on annually in middle school and then twice during high school. Students need to receive instruction about healthy relationships and child sexual abuse 4 times per year. Well, Aaron's Law is 4 times per year throughout K through 12. And then menstrual dignity says that schools need to provide menstrual supplies to everyone in all schools and talk with them starting in elementary school about what, in an age appropriate way, about how, what those materials are for. Who's doing?
Next slide.
Yeah. This is just a little more detail about kind of the tone that it needs to be medically accurate, comprehensive, culturally inclusive, skills-based, inclusive of all genders, encourage positive family communication. So there are lessons, there are activities for students to do with their families or a trusted adult. Needs to be trauma-informed and not fear or shame-based. Next slide. We have a little bit of data. This is from the Oregon Healthy, the student, whatever the Healthy Teen Survey is called, the Student Health Survey. And it is birth rates among 15 to 19-year-olds comparing Multnomah County and the state. And you can see that birth rates are steadily declining over the past, since 2010, there's been a 50% decrease in teen pregnancies. And Oregon is among the lowest in the country in terms of early births. Next slide. These are some STI rates, chlamydia, which is the most common bacterial infection, declined. You can see during COVID, there was a decline that's probably mostly having to do with less testing and reporting, but that overall rates are going down for both chlamydia and gonorrhea, and that mirrors state and national trends. Next slide. This is teen sexual activity, also from the Oregon Healthy Teen Survey, which is now called the Student Health Survey. Fewer teens are reporting sexual contact. This is from survey of 11th graders. And fewer young people are also reporting condom use. The lower line is for people who are sexually active, whether or not they used a condom the last time they had sex. So less sexual activity overall, but also a little less condom use. And that could be because people are using other more effective forms of birth control, though obviously there's still STI prevention we want to be talking with people about. Next slide.
So the Student Health Survey, it's a comprehensive, school-based, anonymous, and it's a voluntary survey about health behaviors. It includes a number of topics, including several which relate to our comprehensive sexuality education plan. It's a key part of statewide efforts to help local schools and communities ensure that all Oregon youth are healthy and successful learners. House Bill 2656 requires school districts to make the survey available to students. Parents may view the SHS before it is administered, and they can also opt their child out of it. The SHS questions are available for them to view, and the students themselves may also opt themselves out of taking the entire thing or individual questions. It's administered in 6th, 8th, and 11th grades, and 2025 was the second year that we administered the SHS. So how is this data used? We're going to share some of it with you. It's used by our middle school and high school health departments during planning, curriculum planning. It's also used in grants. As our participation rate is increasing from year to year, and we have goals for it to continue to increase, the data will obviously become more accurate, and the number of questions that a student actually gets depends on how they answer the questions. So for an 11th grader, it could be up to 97 questions depending on how they answer it. I'll show you some of the kind of questions that are asked. For example, if they're asked if they're sexually active, and they say no, they will not be asked any further questions about their sexual activity. And so next slide, please. So our 8th and 11th graders are asked this question. During the last school year, were you taught in school about how to use birth control methods or where to get birth control? So for our 8th graders who took the SHS in December, some of them had already taken middle school or 8th grade health earlier in the year, and others maybe reflecting back to when they took 7th grade health. Health is a quarter of the year that students take health instead of PE for one quarter. There are several standards in 7th and 8th grade health that pertain to how a student could have learned this. There's an example listed there from 8th grade, list methods of contraception that are available without a prescription in Oregon and where these can be accessed. So we're preparing our students to make wise choices, and this question's kind of is asking at that. Next slide, please. Here's an example from some 11th grade data. So our 8th and 11th graders were asked, have you had sex or engaged in sexual behavior with another person? 22% of our current 11th graders reported that they have had sex or engaged in sexual behavior with another person. Follow-up questions asked about methods used to reduce the risks of sexually transmitted infections and pregnancy prevention. And again, if they answered no, then they were not answered any follow-up questions. Next slide.
So we're going to go over our plan of instruction, which is our curriculum overview. Next slide. So district curricula for comprehensive sexuality education are designed to promote safe, healthy, violence-free communities for all people. This includes promoting concepts and fostering skills for healthy individuals and healthy relationships in age-appropriate ways. So we're going to do kind of a high-level curriculum overview, and we'll hear about some supplemental curriculum that we use as well. Next slide. So as Brooke mentioned, we have a progression. So this slide shows how Oregon's comprehensive sexuality education standards builds across grade levels. In the early grade levels, the focus really is on safety and self-awareness. In upper elementary, students begin to understand the changes in their bodies and work on decision-making skills. And by middle school, the focus shifts to relationships and navigating adolescence. And then by high school, students are making informed, responsible decisions. So overall, it's a clear progression from safety to decision-making, really grounded in our standards. So, next slide. So the Great Body Shop is our core elementary health curriculum. It is aligned to national health standards, national sexuality education standards, Oregon health education standards, and core concepts recommended by the CDC. So the Great Body Shop is reviewed annually, and they update it to ensure that it has medically accurate information and is in line with current guidelines. The Great Body Shop is focused heavily on skills, such as communication skills, decision-making, advocacy for self and others, and then practicing refusal skills and identifying trusted adults. Additionally, social emotional learning, SEL, is a common and prominent theme throughout every grade level and every unit. In regards to human sexuality, this means a heavy focus on respecting differences, understanding that we all grow and develop at different paces, healthy relationships, consent and boundaries, and more. The Great Body Shop weaves in the 5 SEL competencies that you can see up in the box, such as self-awareness and self-management. Next slide, please. So some of the key ideas of sexuality education for elementary students is that everyone has a right to say who touches their body. If a kid has been touched in a way that made them uncomfortable, it's really important to tell a grown-up. There are no jobs, clothes, or toys that are just for males or females, and it is important to treat everyone with care and respect. So this is not an exhaustive list, just some overarching themes within the elementary curriculum. So next slide. So some examples of sexuality education in the Great Body Shop include this example about medically accurate terminology in kindergarten that aligns with the state standards. You can see the growth and development standard at the bottom. Students in their flyers see information about how a body is private and private parts are covered. And the teacher explains that our body parts have names, lists the names, and that those parts are covered. You'll notice that the optional note states if the optional text is using anatomically correct language and is applicable based on your health education standards, and in Oregon it is. So our state standards include that. Next slide. Here is an example from 4th grade that also aligns. And in 4th grade, students learn about puberty, and they learn that all bodies are unique and go through changes. So human sexuality education lessons are evidence-informed, and the Great Body Shop has been adopted by the State Board of Education as an approved curriculum to use in the state of Oregon. Next slide. So part of human sexuality education, as Brooke mentioned, is child sexual abuse prevention, known as Aaron's Law. So part of the law, a minimum of 4 lessons are taught each year. These are identified Aaron's Law lessons in the Great Body Shop for K-5. So topics include identifying safe adults and giving students those self-advocacy skills. The Great Body Shop reviews their curriculum annually, and it also includes internet safety lessons for grades 3 through 5. So I'm going to turn it over to Brendan and talk a little bit about middle school.
So in middle school, we supplement our health core with Get Real. It's a dedicated sexual education curriculum. It's a total of 27 lessons, 9 lessons in grades 6, 7, and 8. It's designed to delay sex and increase correct and consistent use of protection methods when a person becomes sexually active. Since students have 1/4 of health each year, our middle school teachers dedicate their longest unit each quarter to teaching these lessons. The Get Real curriculum is based on state and national frameworks that emphasize the same social and emotional learning skills, which Carrie was just discussing. These skills are integrated into the content of lessons through activities and process questions. These topics build on our discussions in elementary school, but you'll notice that we get into more specifics about reproduction in Get Real. I'll show an example in just a moment. While elementary school covers medically accurate anatomy through the lens of growth and puberty, middle school gets into basic biology of human reproduction. There's a focus on abstinence and postponement for students, and some specifics of disease transmission with a focus on transmission methods. Next slide, please. So here's an example from Get Real. The focus of this lesson is on breaking down myths about sexual orientation and gender identity. Myths such as certain jobs are for certain people but not others, or there are only two genders. Those are addressed. Students walk between posters, indicate if they believe a particular statement is a myth or a fact, and the teacher provides insights into each discussion. This lesson supports a 7th grade health standard from the sexual health and number 1, analyze how peers, family, media, society, culture, and a person's intersecting identities can influence attitudes, beliefs, and expectations about sexuality. We don't have all of the data from the 2025 Student Health Survey, but we do from 2024. And in that survey, up to 7% of students in David Douglas identify as a gender other than male or female. Next slide. Aaron's Law is embedded in Get Real, and you can see the lessons here. These are, of course, to support the child abuse prevention. We begin the transition from talking only about adult abuse to concepts of partner abuse that becomes more of a focus in high school. Next slide. And so in high school, here's an example of a lesson on pregnancy prevention. These lessons are adapted from Positive Prevention Plus, an evidence-based sexual health and mental health curriculum that focuses on reducing teen pregnancy and STIs through abstinence, risk reduction, and communication skills. Students explore effectiveness, advantages, and disadvantages of birth control methods. Students are encouraged to use commonly accessed contraceptives like condoms in class as a demonstration. And the question box, a commonly used tool in health classes, allows students to ask questions anonymously. Next slide. And carrying on with Aaron's Law through 9th through 12th grade. So since freshmen are in a health class, Aaron's Law is addressed there with their health teachers. And in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, we have adopted a program called Wayfinder, and Aaron's Law is addressed through that curriculum, which is taught during advisory. Next slide.
Okay, so that leads us to our comprehensive human sexuality education plan. It's more than just the curriculum that you heard. So Sandy, if you can go to the next slide. This is on our district website. Full transparency for our families is very important. So our plan, as you can see, it brings together instruction, but also policy, resources, standards. What will my child be learning in different grade? What curriculum do you use? What's the opt-out process, which Brendan's going to talk about in a moment. I think a big focus of us is we understand that sometimes this instruction is very personal to families, and there are varying beliefs about what should be taught and who should be teaching it. So the law does require an opt-out process, and we want to make sure that we respect that process, that we're transparent, that families have a voice. It is in the law that, again, families can opt out. It's the only thing that's really written where families have the right to opt out of instruction. So Brendan's going to go over our opt-out process, so that's really clear.
Next slide. So our opt-out forms are sent out through Parent Square. And the number of lessons that a parent can opt out of, it varies by grade. In 2nd grade, it's only 3 lessons. Those 3 lessons are identified as either sensitive topics by the curriculum, or they're identified as part of the comprehensive gender education. And so the form through Parent Square is sent out to all families of elementary students early in the school year. In middle school, the form is sent out by the health teachers at the start of each quarter that the student is enrolled in health. And in 9th grade, the form is sent out to all 9th grade parents before they start their sex ed unit, which is in the 2nd semester. But we use Parent Square across all grades. now. Parents Grid translates, of course, into all languages. We do have the opt-out forms as a PDF on our website for viewing in English. As well as in elementary school, the lessons. You can learn a little bit more about the lessons for a parent who wants to know more about either the sensitive topics or the comprehensive gender education, which together make up the opt-out lessons in elementary school. Next slide.
Okay, so as I mentioned, key aspects of implementation of human sexuality education is time, creating time for required instruction within a full schedule. I think you heard Brennan say our middle schoolers only get a quarter of health per year, and that equates to what, like 20 days roughly?
About 20 lessons.
About 20 lessons a year, which includes human sexuality. So that time is really short, which is why our freshmen, they put that as a full year. And we also know elementary curriculum is crowded. So, how do we really elevate health instruction? It's required by law to give our students the knowledge and skills that they need. Also, we are behind on our high school health adoption overall. We have deferred that adoption, and we're getting close to where we will need to adopt materials for high school health according to the state cycle. And I think also this is not only a sensitive topic for families, but sometimes also for staff. Sometimes staff feel uncomfortable using medically accurate terminology when you're working with a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old. So how do we build staff confidence and readiness for instruction? And again, as I mentioned, partnering with families and caregivers, we want to be as clear as possible. Families have a right to come in and view the curriculum prior. A lot of times we can't send that home. Publishers will say that is a copyright issue. You're not allowed to put the whole curriculum on your website, which is why we have the letters by lesson topic. And then if they want to know more, they have the option to go into school, look at the curriculum so they can actually see it in more depth. And then again, we want to make sure that we are ensuring consistent standards aligned instructions for all students. It is an equity issue, and we want to make sure we adhere to that. So with that, are there any questions?
Near and dear to my heart, y'all. Do you know if any of these curriculums have education on intersex or not just the binary of male and female? Maybe it doesn't. I don't know.
I'm most familiar with Get Real at the middle school, and it is talked about in the... We made adaptations, actually, in collaboration with all of the districts when this curriculum was adopted. We went through a long process of adapting, and that is one thing that I think was added by us.
Oh, great.
Or by, in Multnomah County.
Yeah. And then do you know...
Oh, I don't know. I'm less familiar with.
It often, if it's not directly addressed in the curriculum, it's often addressed when students ask questions with the question box as well.
Oh, great. Do you know any rates of opt-out in the district right now?
For sex ed?
Mm-hmm.
So right now we have this year, so the only form that I personally sent out was the 9th grade opt-out form. 20 families chose to opt out. Some families didn't check any of the lessons though, so that kind of changes the data. Mm-hmm. To collect the opt-out data for middle school, there are 3 middle schools and 3 grades and 4 quarters, and those are all separate forms. I have not pulled that data, but I can if you'd like to. In elementary school, we have 9 schools, 6 grades, and each of those are separate forms as well. I could pull that data, but I've not done that yet.
Do you have an idea?
It's been a few years, but anecdotally, I would say that like 1 or 2 people per class when I was...
Yeah, I was going to say maybe class size or... Okay.
For some teachers, they'll have no families that opt out, but another teacher may have up to 5 families that opt out. It varies by class.
Okay, thank you.
And generally, we see more opt-outs in the younger grades and less as a student gets older. And we usually see a family consistently opt out across each grade as their child gets older.
Yeah, we used to do it by topic. And I think, we really shifted that to lesson so that, well, maybe I don't want that lesson, but I don't want to opt out of everything. So hopefully we'll see less opt-outs from that.
I noticed a notes field on the opt-out. Do you collect that information?
The notes?
Yeah, well, on the opt-out form, there's a field for notes. Do you do anything with that information or get any? I'm just curious, what?
Not many families use the notes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just curious. Thank you.
We've changed the form so that next year you can't submit the form and not check a box. So we won't have that issue.
I'm curious. I quickly looked at Aaron's Law, and a part of that is also educating the parents, right, or the caregivers of the student. And I'm curious, in addition to having it really nicely available on the site, what instructional support are we giving to parents to help? What educational support are we giving to instructors and teachers in connecting with parents about this? And I know one of the tactics is sending the Great Body Shop home, right, in the younger grades, but like as they grow, what's the practice?
Yeah, I think that is an area of growth. In the past, we've done some workshops for caregivers and families. We've had regional spokespeople come in. We've had Oregon Department of Ed come in. It has been some time, and it might be time to do that again, because we want families to really understand what it means and make informed decisions and know how to talk to their children and not be surprised by what was taught in class and not be able to have that conversation.
I only know up to 10th grade at this point, but one thing that I did see that was absent, that's sort of ubiquitous everywhere, is pornography. I feel like in the lessons around digital safety, it was a lot about, being predators and stuff like that, but that is something that's everywhere, especially in young grades. And I had one of my kids come up and ask me what that word meant, and that somebody else was showing somebody that and this is in middle school. So I'm just wondering, do we have any curriculum around that subject?
It's also a discussion that's come up in our middle school health curriculum planning meetings with our middle school health teachers. So it's something we're discussing and trying to work through. Again, with only like 19 days of instructional time per year, it's hard to find the time, but it does come up. And we don't have a specific adopted curriculum to support that topic, but it's important.
Yeah. Doesn't mean we couldn't look for like a supplemental lesson that we can embed within the scope and sequence.
It just feels like it's a different era now.
Yeah, we'll make note of that for sure.
Thank you. That was my only question.
Sarah as well.
In the curriculum, is it addressing that it's okay to feel asexual? Excellent. Is there also curriculum discussing masturbation? Excellent. Thank you.
I forget. I'm not sure which grade that discussion starts in.
I don't remember either. If it's I don't know if it's in the Great Body Shop. No?
But I'd have to look.
We'll have to look.
Does it hopefully with puberty talk?
It's definitely talked about in middle school, 6th, 7th. I would say 6th and 7th.
It's a little late, but okay.
It's all.
I think it's also really awesome that like our libraries often put out information like when it's Asexuality Week, there's books. I mean, I've been, they're definitely aware of different identities and putting it out front and center. I've seen that myself. So.
Well, and I feel like students are really proactive about bringing.
Seriously,
they
know
like
so much
really
more than we think.
Those conversations. So.
That's true, Molly.
I had one other question. Do you know if the SHS survey defines sexual behavior to the student before they ask?
Right. with a percentage like 22% of our 11th graders being sexually active, it certainly begs that question. Like, how do you define sex? What does that mean to an 11th grader? It doesn't.
It doesn't. Okay.
No, it's left to their interpretation.
We do.
And as you saw with the percentage participation, that 22% is based off of only half of our 11th graders taking that. So, yeah, we have plans to increase that, but it was an increase from the previous year. So it's a 97-question test. You can imagine many 11th graders preferring to opt out of taking it. It asks a lot of uncomfortable questions.
Can you ask that differently? Are you on the survey?
If I designed it, sure. Yeah.
Well, this is all amazing. I don't remember much of my health education, but I love this. It's great.
I didn't say it explicitly, but I'm sure it's in here. Is like suicide prevention a part of like personal safety, and what age do you feel like it
kind of gets explicit?
We organized that once. Suicide prevention is in the grade body shop, and we one time gathered which grade it starts in, and I'm forgetting right now, but there is a point where I partway through elementary school where there are lessons that actually bring that up, even if they don't use the word suicide specifically. I think the word suicide might come up later elementary for the first time.
Or like self-harm or something like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. There's the
Depression,
concepts are
mental
there
health.
without that terminology until later elementary.
Okay, thank you.
In mental health, maybe in mental health sections more than in sexuality.
Yeah, and then certainly in middle school health curriculum, it is a part of our middle school health curriculum for sure.
Okay.
And in the mental health unit, yeah.
I'm curious, I know this is maybe do you have another question? Oh, okay. This might be an antiquated practice, but is there any, as our students are gaining in grade, kind of groupings of students to talk about, I guess I'm aging myself, they separated us between genders and talked about that. We don't do that anymore, right?
2 years ago was the last year that we had separating of genders in 5th grade puberty education. We no longer do that in David Douglas.
Thank you. That's that's wonderful. Yeah, I wanted to second. I really appreciate it. I know I've told you personally, but I really like the body shop curriculum, so thank you.
I don't see any other. Okay,
I
go
was just
ahead.
going to say, anecdotally, one of my favorite teachers in high school was the health teacher, and she did a phenomenal job of human sexuality education, the whole gamut, the whole how to, what to, and it was great. So thank you all.
We have really strong health teachers in our school district. All of our health teachers are health credentialed, which is not something a lot of school districts can say. So it's amazing.
Yay, science. Anyone want to move approval of the Human Sexuality Education Plan?
I move that we adopt the Human Sexuality Education Plan.
I second.
Moved and seconded. Director Ender?
Ender, aye.
Stevenson, aye.
Epstein, aye.
Stevens, aye.
Jordan, aye.
Thank you so much for your excellent work. Good to see you again.
Thanks for your time.
Okay, so we're up to Ken, who apparently is making all the children leave our district.
Yeah, first time I'm hearing that, but thank you, Mr. Long. I'm gonna remember that. No, I know, but I got you. No, seriously, thank you all again for all you do every day. Have a few updates, and some of it's just review of what we've talked about, but just to keep the board in the loop. Number one, I wanted to share with you, if you remember a couple months back, we had Prosper Portland come to our board meeting with a nonprofit related to soccer field and one of our district properties. I want you to know that that conversation is ongoing. We have been going back and forth. Pat and I had a meeting a few weeks ago. It was good. It was productive. During that meeting, it was decided that the turnaround to come to this board meeting might be a little quick. So Prosper basically communicated to us, and we agreed that, okay, in May is when they're going to be coming back. So we hope by that time everything's ironed out, and we'll be able to come back to you with a plan that we are, quote unquote, recommending and ask for your consideration. So that's kind of where we're at. And again, I won't guarantee that because there's a lot of details. So maybe we're a month out from that, but that is the plan at this point. Just wanted to keep the board in the loop on that. Second, a blast from the past here reminder. Some of you might have seen an email, but if not, I believe, include a policy at your desk. A while back, the board adopted a policy based on a governor's action related to personal electronics devices. Just wanted to flag for the board that that policy has been working. The rules have been working. I think we've gotten feedback. But over the last couple weeks, smart glasses have made their appearance at the high. No, they are not. These are reading glasses. These are just old. This is me. But so they are. They've made their appearance. The reality is in this policy, I believe, and I remember, and the board did talk about some of the language, keeping it a little broader because things will change. So this policy itself does address it we believe, but we also believe it'd be great to update this policy. So next month we'll be bringing this information for the entire board. We'll probably prior to that get the policy committee to kind of review a little bit. Again, Jose was on an email. I'm not sure or remember how many of you were on an email, but that's something we're going to ask the board to review and consider. Right now we are covered. Right now we can tell students, hey, it is under anything that accesses the internet independently from school's network infrastructure. I mean, anyway, the definition's here. So we're okay, but the reality is we would like to get specific when we can and review this policy. So we'll be bringing it next month, yes.
Is there pushback on that specifically?
No, well, so to be quite honest, yeah, so there is, I wouldn't say there's pushback, but adolescents, I mean, that's kind of what they do. So there's been questions and there's been, yeah, so the reality is the clearer we can be in language, the better off we'll be. But the reality is we have rules. This is the understanding of the rules. But sometimes people can be quite literal. No, it's a cell phone ban. No, it's more than that. It's a personal electronic devices. So just educating and kind of going through that process. And I think to make sure the board's on board and agrees with us and the board might decide, no, we don't want to touch this policy. That's fine as well, but we are considering bringing it for review, and I just wanted it on the board's radar that was brought to our attention by our high school specifically. The next is we do have a slide, but I also put in front of you a lot of talk tonight about enrollment. It's a packet. It's an enrollment packet. You've seen this before. Normally this time of year, I don't necessarily bring it to your attention. It's more the beginning of the year, but we do check it. We review it. We look at it ongoing. And unfortunately, I just wanted to flag for you that if you look at our enrollment, specifically the bottom box down there, and you see elementary K-5, and you look at this time last year, this is what it's measuring, you could see we're at about 3,800 students in our elementary. Yeah, the bottom box there. And if you go to the left of that box, you can see we're at 35. So the reality is we're down negative 223 students. I think that is 25 students, minus 5%. So, I don't like to focus on the negative, but I want to keep the board informed, keep our community informed. Our enrollment is dropping rapidly. If you think about 250 students, if you think year over year, the number of students we've lost, we're probably at a full elementary school. If you think about piecing it together, the number of students. So the reality, I'm just flagging that because a little later I'm going to be reviewing and talking about reductions and keeping the board up to date as I committed to do. And part of that communication, again, this is the real talk. Part of that communication is we're going through some difficult times right now. And if you were to look at projections for next year, we're talking about probably continued difficult times, right? So again, not to focus on the negative, focus on what we can do and how we can be proactive. But right now, enrollment was down at the beginning of the year and it continues to drop. And if you look at this same time last year where our number is, we're down and it's continuing to go down. So just flagging that for the board at this time and making sure that you understand that we are monitoring it and we're trying to navigate it to the best of our ability. Yes, Thomas.
Do we know how many potential students are in the district?
No. We can get a number of, for example, how many homeschooled students. We could get a number of like inter-district transfers. We can get, but what you're asking in general, all of it, we don't know. I mean, there are some students that probably aren't going to school or going to some charter that we might not even know about. We should know, but we don't have an exact number, no. It's not just students, and it's not just David Douglas, not trying to make an excuse. Multnomah County, an article that just came out, fastest declining county in the state. It's impacting us. We also know if you look at our birth rates, kinder, they're way down as well. Excuse me, not kinder. Birth rates are down, which we believe will impact kinder in years to come. So yeah.
I would be curious at some point to see the potential students versus who's enrolling and just see, I don't know if we can get data over the last few years and see if it's a correlation or it's just always this general percent of families choose to not attend David Douglas.
Got it. I wrote it down. We can get to it. And we are working with PSU to look at basically kind of a study of our enrollment, study of our community that we do from time and again, and we are planning to get into that. But we can also get you other data points that we do have that see what that picture is, yeah. Okay, so just flagging that for you. The next thing I'd like to flag, and Jacob already brought it up, but I just cannot say go without superintendent's report. I gave you a flyer. I also emailed it to you. But the town hall this Friday night, I mean, just a tremendous shout out to our LSU student union leaders. I mean, this is basically all student driven. It's going to be an amazing event. Those who can attend, great. I look forward to seeing you there. But thank you, Jacob, for bringing it up, and thank you to our LSU students and our student body in general, who are just taking a lead in having a voice in our community and expressing, you know, kind of what needs to be said. So I wanted to take some time there. The next one, this one, it's if you remember a few months back, we were knee deep and very excited about a CTE fundraiser, an amazing evening, and the amount of money we raised. And you also might remember that we called it a kickoff to a fundraiser, which we were pretty excited about, and continuing that fundraiser and seeing if we can't reach our goal. I wanted to share with the board that since then, and within the last couple of weeks, we received a donation from a donor, a family in our community of $50,000 to the CT Center. So yeah, I'm not going to say their name right now publicly. It wasn't anonymous. We know who they are, but just out of courtesy, I'm not quite sure how. So we're going to check on that. But the bottom line, I knew the board would want to know that and excited. And when I have permission to possibly share the family's name, I will do that as well. So, but so grateful if they're listening, if they're out there. Amazing gratitude for their generosity to the CT Center, to ultimately to our students, right? I mean, that's just going directly to our students. Okay, the last thing, team, I wanted to talk about, and I'm going to ask Sandy to pull up a slide in a minute here, but I wanted to update the board on reductions. Again, the board has seen the reduction plan. There shouldn't be anything in here that's a surprise. The reduction plan in general, we have talked to individuals impacted. We've talked to schools impacted. The plan as the surface level, people know about it. You heard some of the testimony tonight. I want to pause and say everything that was said in testimony tonight, I agree with. It was focused on specific groups like our mentors. And the reality is that's all true. Everything that was said, I believe, is true, and then some. The reality is I think one of the most difficult things a board does, I've never been a board member, but one of the most difficult things is reductions, time to reductions. This morning I had the opportunity to talk to a few people, and I shared I can say the last 17 years, I've either been an assistant superintendent or superintendent in this district, and the most difficult work has been reductions, right? And the reason is because we're talking relationships and people. And so the reality is I never want to show a slide without pausing and just sharing this is very difficult. We're talking about people that impact lives, impact our community. We never know the long-term effect that one smile, one pat on the back, one hug, one lesson, one accountability interaction, whatever it may be with a child or a young adult, that impact, and we're taking away those resources. And I just want to say our community, well, first our staff, our community, and most importantly, our students deserve better. I honestly believe that. I've already apologized to the community. I will again. I am sorry we're in this situation. From our district level to the state level, it is not right. It's not okay. And I have to, as superintendent, say this. Although I'm optimistic, and I will continue to be optimistic, and we are doing amazing work and trying every day, I am worried about next biennium. I am worried about what could happen from enrollment that's impacting, but just general funding from the state. Right now, the indicators we're getting are not good. So just that's where we're at, one step at a time. And because of the seriousness of this, and I did it last time as well, I'd like to ask a little grace here. I do want to read a statement before I show you the data and the information where we're at. The proposed reductions that we've shared previously represent far more than numbers on a page. They reflect real people, valued colleagues, and essential members of our school community. Each position listed is someone who has built relationships with students, supported learning, and contributed meaningfully to our schools. These reductions are not just budget adjustments, they are losses that will be felt across our system, particularly in the services and support we are able to provide to students. Across the district, we are facing a deficit of over $9 million, and these reductions total 36 FTE are a direct result of that financial reality. While we have worked to minimize the overall impact, the effects are still significant. At the elementary level, reductions include both classroom teachers and SASs, student achievement specialists, staff across multiple schools, which will lead to increased class sizes and reduce access to critical student supports. At the middle and high school level, reductions in teaching staff, administrative roles, and specialized positions will similarly impact student experiences, programming, and access to resources. In addition, reductions to district-level positions, technology support, mentoring, equity-focused roles, and parent-educator programs will have a system-wide implications. These roles play a vital part in supporting both students and staff, and their absence will be deeply felt. We recognize that behind every FTE is a person, someone who has dedicated their time, energy, and expertise to serving students. These decisions are incredibly difficult and carry real human impact. At the same time, they also represent a reduction in the opportunities, supports, and services available to our students. We remain committed to navigating this process with care, transparency, and respect for those affected, while continuing to advocate for the resources our students and staff deserve. So what I'd like to do is ask Sandy to pull up this slide. Again, none of this should be a surprise, but I'm committed, one, for our entire community, for our staff, for our board, just to keep you updated and kind of look at this. The reality is the way it's broken down, but you can see from the left hand, admin manager, to our classified to license. The one thing I will flag that I am happy about is that you'll notice the license number has gone down. You might not remember this. I wouldn't expect you to remember this, but that license at the elementary level was upwards of 24, and it's gone down because we've found that we have more room in our SIA account where we can place elementary teachers to help with class size reduction. That's one of the things we can use it for, so we're doing that. So some of those that would have been cuts are going into the SIA account, so we're looking everywhere we can to continue the numbers, and there might be others before it's all said and done. Although, before this meeting's over, Pat's going to share with you in her report another surprise we just got literally over the last couple days, which goes the other way. So I bury the lead here. But with all that said, if we go to the next slide. So this is elementary level. It basically wanted to show you the kind of the enrollment, the current number of teachers, the reduction. That is the number of classroom teachers. So you can see we have 10. Remember the previous page shows 19. We have 10 teachers. You can see that number of our schools are projected to have 2 FTE reduction. Others are projected to have 1, and then there are some that are projected to have 0 based on their current enrollment and class size. You can see based on these numbers, the average class size to that right, which last board meeting we came to you with that average class size of 27, so we're working very hard and trying to keep it below that, but that's the reality. And reminder, out of transparency, that's average, right? There will be some higher than that, there will be some lower than that. But right now, that's what we are building our staffing ratios on, and ultimately we'll be building schedules and sections. If we go to the middle school, next slide, Sandy, I apologize, I should have. Again, none of this is new other than I did talk about elementary going from 24 to 19. Elementary went from 9 to 6 with the same type of process, right? So if you notice, Alisat has 2 FTE. That will be reduced. Ron Russell was at 6, they are now at 4, and we are reducing 1 AP. And then David Douglas High School did not change. They're still at 4.5 FTE that will be reduced. If we go to the final slide, and then finally we had testimony tonight about this, district office FTE or program reductions, technology director. If you remember, we used to have a cabinet member that was part of our team. That was still in the budget, although not spent. It is cut now. There's a technology supervisor that's being reduced. The para-educator program, you heard testimony on tonight, an amazing program, amazing, and I believe one of the only ones in the county, if not the state. So it is a very difficult decision. Equity TOSA, we have 2 equity TOSAs. We will be reducing 1. Licensed mentor program, you heard about tonight. Technology TOSA is another TOSA we'll be reducing, and then a 0.5 classified kind of central library. So that totals 9 FTE that are currently projected to be reduced. At this point, again, everything that's on here, the individuals impacted, no, other than the classroom FTE. So all of the TOSAs, the SASs, because they're program related, we can communicate it. We are committed to communicate as soon as we know. Where you see a elementary school that says 2 FTE, that is all done by seniority and done by bumping, and we don't know that yet. As soon as we know that, we will go out and say, okay, now we know the reduction in force, the actual individuals that are impacted by that, and we'll be communicating, but we do not know that yet. So the reality is right now, this is our current reduction plan when it comes to staffing. I've sent the board other things, like we're delaying bus purchases, we're delaying some curriculum purchase. There's other things reality, but right now what I'm talking about for this presentation has to do with FTE personnel and impacts ultimately on our district and services. I'll pause there. I don't know if there's questions.
You mentioned the vacancy of the technology director. Are any of these others currently vacant, or is this all people?
So there are vacancies. So the technology TOSA,
Yeah, I want to say the Tech TOSA too is a new reduction. He took a position at Oregon Department of Education, so it's a new vacancy as of like literally spring break.
For the licensed mentors, 2.5 FTE reduction, do we have any left?
No,
that program is.
Sorry, I should say no, that's a program reduction. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you for that sobering news. We are now going to talk about financial report, and we have like 3 minutes to get through 3 agenda items. That's probably not going to happen. So I'm wondering if it's possible to keep reflections on public comment or board liaison committee reports off the agenda tonight, because we have an exec after this, unless someone has something burning they need to say. Y'all okay with that? Okay. So we'll go on to the financial report and then wrap after that, since we have another meeting.
I'll try to be brief, and I apologize that this was late, but literally, as Ken said, we've got a couple curveballs, and we actually just got one before the meeting that's related to this. So just a reminder, we brought to you pension obligation bond participation with other districts to look at whether we want to go out again for another pension bond. The cost is $2,500. We have the agreement. I attached it in there so you can see that. It would provide for 3 different analysis through 2028. We're going to go ahead with that since that's just a pretty small amount, and see if there's any positive news in the future. I'm going to limit tonight's report just to the general fund. And so last month I reported that the fund balance was going up. We were at about 15.7 million. I'm bringing to you 15.2 today. Reason for that is actually there's 2 things that are going on that I want to bring to your attention. One of them is affecting this report. The other may affect the next report in May. I have to do a little more digging. So the one for May is related to tax returns. It seems to be ticking a little slower. The tax returns are not where I would expect them to be. So I'm not clear if that's a decline in them and they're delinquent, or people haven't filed, or if just the county is slow in getting things out. That sometimes happens. So we're really going to dig in and see what's going on there. I'll bring an update next month. ODE started rolling out adjustments to the state school fund. They also rolled out adjustments or updates for the high cost disability fund. And so for those of you who have been here before, the process is that every year you do an estimate of what your high cost disability students cost. That estimate goes in, you get a preliminary payment. After the year closes, your audit is done, you file a supplementary report with the state on actual costs. Usually there's a variance. For those board members who have been here for a while, they know that usually I'm telling them we're paying something back. So you can see here we have a $217,000 payback for last year. That's simply the difference between what they paid and what the actual costs were, and a factor that the costs are going up so much that the rate of the payment is going down. So on the 25th of March, we received a preliminary estimate of nearly 1.7 million. That was basically a payout at almost 37% of the cost. We submitted 4.5 million in costs. Reminder that for high cost disability, the state has a $55 million pool. So everybody goes after the pool, submits their stuff, and that's part of the reason why you're seeing the payments continuing to decrease. The costs are just skyrocketing. So yesterday, as I was getting ready to finalize the report to the board, I got an update. And we got a notification that ODE is changing the methodology for estimates, and they're using a predictive model just because of what's been going on in the issue of folks having to pay back, because smaller districts are getting larger impacts to their budget. Smaller districts haven't seen as much in high cost in the past. In the last few years, that's been increasing for tiny districts. And when a small district of, less than 1,000 students, maybe even as small as 100 or 500 students, has a $100,000 student or more, that's a pretty significant budgetary impact for them. And then to come and file for the high cost disability, thinking they're going to get reimbursed, and then you go from 36% to 21%, which is what the predictive model says you will get paid out next year. So they were wanting to apply the predictive model this year and basically say, well, we know last week we sent you 1.7 million, but because we're anticipating that the costs will increase, then you will actually end up paying back that difference between 1.6 and 988 next year. So that's equivalent to that 217 this year. So Sandy, can you pop up, I think it says high cost disability grant reimbursement rate predictive model. There you go. So this is their predictive model that they just sent out yesterday. So that gives you an idea of, you can see the grant amount since 2005-06. I think it was actually called a cap waiver back then. Went from 12 million, 18 million, 35 million to the current 55 million. You can see the number of students and the significant increase in the students over time from 1,300 to just under 8,000. You can see the total expenses going from 55 million back in 0506, which is our pool now, to 434 million statewide. You can see the eligible expenditures over threshold at 219 million. What that means is the high-cost disability is based on the students costing $30,000 or more. So there's quite a calculation that you go into to determine if the students are that much or more. So again, there is a gap there for what you get in special ed costs till the 30,000. And then you can see here 29% down to 21%. So they're predicting the eligible expenses for this fiscal year will reach $252 million. Does that help explain?
Yes,
I didn't quite do that, but yeah, I was like, oh, there was a few maybe expletives, but so right before this meeting, an ODE sent out a notification to school districts that because we all went to a meeting with them yesterday and said, gee whiz, it would have been nice if you had told us this like a month or two ago. This is not great timing for us. We're just about at year end. We've got our projections for our ending fund balance. That's definitely going to affect it. This affects next year. Would have been nice to know because we already pretty much have our budgets done. So they just sent out an email that said districts may opt for the predictive rate or the preliminary rate, which was the 1.7, knowing that you're going to end up paying that back just because they heard from the some districts. One of our neighbors said they have a cash flow problem if they don't get that. So we'll look at that a little closer and make a determination. At the end of the day, you're going to either take it now or take it later and as a hit. So I wanted to bring that to your attention as you see the numbers fluctuate and people go, gee, you know, Pat, why can't you get that dirt in the center? Things are obviously changing. There is a little bit of a change in my ending fund projection due to tick up in substitutes, and so I'm just kind of increasing that projection a little bit. But I may bring you another adjustment for taxes next month, and probably not in a positive way. So I just wanted to make you all aware. Any questions?
I had one question. I looked at a different document that was included and it listed by district.
Mm-hmm.
Could you speak to, I just looked at
You scroll down a
Gresham.
little bit.
Yeah. I looked at a neighboring district like Gresham and then compared to David Douglas, and
Maybe page 4.
I was wondering when I'm not great at math.
Down again.
But when I divided this expense to the student amount,
Up one
you
more.
just passed it. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. So Gresham 2183, and then David Douglas 2187 row. And I took that 9 million divided by 177, took the 4.5 million divided by 146. Is there like a reason that it's so different per? Is it just per student needs or?
So yeah, that number there is the cost that's $30,000 or above that a district's experiencing, and so we actually have to submit that by student and do a complete file per student on what the cost is and how much over it is. So Gresham has 177 students, and we have 146.
But Gresham's is 9 million with like 30 more students or so. Is that?
Yeah, that could be. So it depends on what the placement is. And so I think we talked about placements a while ago, but like there's one placement over at Monoma ESD that's $181,000. And so depending on how many students you have and what their needs are, it could vary quite a bit. One of the things that they did discuss is they were concerned about some districts gaming the system. And so basically putting in a high number as an estimate so you get cash flow and then modifying it later, that generally bites you. So I wouldn't recommend doing that. I know our numbers have been off. Some of that is due to the fluidity of students. I mean, we've had several students, and I just had our analysts look at it, and we're down about 200,000 from that project, from that estimate that we did just a couple months ago, just from students in and out of the program.
Everyone's staring at me now, so I think that means people's questions are done. Thank you so much, Pat. We'll talk about all that later, I suppose. And given that we're taking the last two things off the agenda, I say we're adjourned. We're supposed to reconvene in 1 minute, but let's take 5, shall we? 15 after.